This meeting to order, the Webster Conservation Commission. I want to welcome everyone to tonight's meeting, Monday, November 9th, 2020 at 5:30 p.m. It's currently dark outside. That makes me sad. So I need to read just an excerpt here from the governor while we meet virtually here. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order superseding certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law GLC 30A, Section 18, and the Governor's March 15, 2020 order superseding imposition on strict limitations in the number of people that may gather in one place, this meeting shall be conducted via this platform of Zoom. So welcome everyone again, and we're going to begin with meeting minutes for approval. I hope everyone's had a chance to approve them, review them. First up for approval is May 18th. Do we have any discussion? Have folks had a chance to review them?
Yes.
Okay. Is that motion number one?
I'll make the motion to approve the meeting minutes for May 18th.
I second it.
Robin seconds. Mary, please poll.
All right. Michelle Cirillo.
Yes.
Mr. Bach.
Yes.
Mr. Duteau.
Yes.
Mr. Brown.
Yes.
Dr. Jewell.
Yes.
And Mr. Wigglesworth.
Yes. All right, next group of meeting minutes for approval, July 20th, 2020. Any comments on them? And if not, do we have a motion?
There is an error on it.
Okay.
I'm listed as being absent for the meeting, yet I voted on approving a set of minutes.
Oh, for July 20th?
Yep.
All right, we'll fix that.
Okay.
And in this particular case, it could get confusing because most weeks the minutes list off everybody's individual vote, whereas this one, all of them just say, all say aye.
Right.
Okay. So did you want to make that a motion with the change on that?
Well, I can't because if I wasn't there.
Sorry. Yep.
So Fred, you're saying that you weren't there, or you think you were there. This is the meeting, the only meeting we tried to do in public. And Joey was there and Hayden was there in person. And then a few people called in, including Robin and Michelle.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I wasn't at it.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that was a tough one. I think you were in New York, Fred.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
That's the meeting that I was yelling at my son and I didn't realize I was still on speaker.
I'm going to tell you, that was a tough meeting. Let's
Oh yeah, with all that other stuff, yeah.
All right, so can I get a motion with the change from Fred?
I motion, we put that Fred was on the agenda.
Investment of Fred, okay. Do we have a second on that?
A second.
Dan with a second.
All right, Mr. Bach,
Yes.
Mr. Duteau,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Dr. Jewell,
Yes.
Ms. Cirillo,
Yes.
Mr. Wigglesworth.
Yes. Next one, August 17th. Any discussion on these meeting minutes? If not, can we get a motion?
I make the motion to accept the minutes of August 17th as written.
Dan
I'll
was first.
second.
And that was that Michelle with the second?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, Ms. Cirillo,
Yes.
Mr. Bach,
Yes.
Mr. Duteau,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Dr. Jewell,
Yes.
Mr. Wigglesworth.
Yes. All right, August 31st, meeting minutes for approval. Any discussion on them? If not, can we get a motion, please?
I motion we accept the minutes of August 24th,
August 31st.
31st, I'm sorry.
Yep.
I'll second.
All right.
All right, Ms. Cirillo,
Yes.
Mr. Bach,
Yes.
Mr. Duteau,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Dr. Jewell,
Yes.
Mr. Wigglesworth.
Yes. All right, now, September 21st, Mary, we needed to continue. All right, can I get a motion to continue the meeting minutes for September 21st, 2020?
I'll make the motion, Joey.
Second.
Ms. Cirillo,
Yes.
Mr. Bach,
Yes.
Mr. Duteau,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Dr. Jewell,
Yes.
Mr. Wigglesworth.
Yes. Okay, requests for determination of applicability, also known as RDAs. First up is 3 Lakeview Road. Applicant is Melissa Setzer. Dan, if you would mind reading?
Who's reading?
Hold on, Melissa. We have to have our board clerk read the filing.
Oh,
In accordance with Mass General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, as amended, the Wetlands Protection Act, this public meeting will consider a determination of applicability filed by Melissa Seltzer to determine whether removal of pine trees at 3 Lakeview Ave is subject to the Wetlands Protection Act and the local wetland bylaw.
Okay. So we've got some photographs here. How you doing tonight, Melissa?
I'm sorry, what?
I said, how are you doing this evening? Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear. Can you hear me? Yes.
Yes. All right, so we went out to your property on Saturday. Very nice new property for you. I appreciate a lot of the questions that you asked, and we do recognize several trees that need to be removed as far as dead, and this one obviously in the lower right corner is tearing up the driveway. It's listed on the agenda as 8 trees, but we actually counted 13. As we went to the property, you have a very unique, small, almost a little island in the back there, where we recognize some of the trees there have peaked in their life. They're not looking healthy. And if the others that are surrounding were to come down, they could pose a hazard as limbs are only on one side. When we were there, Melissa, we had talked about a few things. Number one, have you given thought to what was on the list, that large oak on the, I guess, the Indian Ranch side?
So if you think it's safe and it just needs pruned, I'd love to keep the oak. I just didn't know what's healthy and it's the pine trees actually.
Yeah, once those others are out of there, I think you're going to see a much different tree than what is looking up there with some the pine trees really, number one, crowding it out, but two, they're not in very good condition. But some pruning. So Mary, one oak to be pruned and can come off of the list.
Okay.
The others that were there,
And Joey, the oak is in this clump here, right? I believe it's
it is
kind
in
of
that
behind
cluster.
there.
Yeah, what I had recommended, I think before the actual company comes out and cuts them, is they do have the white X's on them, but now that oak has a white X on it, I think they should be ribboned for the tree company so that they know exactly, all right, this has been approved, that's been approved, this has been approved. So that was my suggestion when we were there. There's a small group, this tree right there, number 9, is at the bank, but not completely in that bank there. And its roots are towards the top. The other one, Mary, you have another angle of this.
Yeah, 9 is the one that's completely dead, I believe.
Yeah, there's actually 3 that are completely dead.
Okay.
Actually, one of them. It's the one that has the light on it. And then the 3 in the background actually they're not in good shape at all. So Melissa does not plan on doing, if you look at, towards the bottom of that photograph where it says tree 9, there's vegetation there. She's not planning on doing anything with that vegetation. She's going to leave it. Stumps will remain for stability of the earth. We had talked about putting back some shrubs and some trees. Did you happen to get a chance to look at any trees online, Melissa?
Yes, and I like that, what one, red,
Oh yeah, the eastern redbud.
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, eastern redbud.
Yeah, I would like to look more, and maybe get with you. You said you would have
Okay,
trees and like more so towards the spring.
yeah, that'd be fine.
Like I get a hold of you to help me decide on what and where to put it.
Yeah, eastern redbud, there's some dogwoods that you could put in there that won't, like I said, they won't get huge.
Yeah.
But they'll still provide a function for the landscape, and they'll make your yard look great. So Dan and Robin were with me. Dan, did you have any comments or Robin on
Mhm.
what we saw there?
Nice property.
Thank you.
I do not.
So,
Okay.
Mr. Commissioner, can you clarify? It looks like I'm seeing pictures with 12 trees labeled. What are they actually proposing? To take them all except the oak?
Yeah, see
They're dead.
where it says the red one? See where the red there? There's an oak in there.
Yeah.
So there's 1, 2, 3 pines on the island. Towards the water, there are some birches and a red maple. It's leaning a little bit, but it does not pose a hazard. And those were to stay.
Which ones?
On,
Do you want this, or would you rather have the pictures, Joey?
yeah, do the photographs, Mary. This is a little bit, it's actually a little bit off there.
Okay.
So if you go back, photos on the island,
Okay, well, here's looking at,
see right in the middle, yeah, actually, between trees 10 and 11 and 9, you'll see a grouping of trees and right there. Those were to stay.
Yep.
And we talked about how they're providing shade for the lake there actually, and they'll more than likely begin growing up and probably growing up straight once the larger trees are out of there. Along the property line, there is just some trimming of some of the bushes that we noticed when we were there. I did ask if a fence would eventually go up, and the comment from the homeowner, Melissa, was that eventually she's thinking of a vinyl fence. So we could probably, seeing how this is a 3-year permit, we might be able to just put that in here as well. The other item was there's where that little bridge is, you can see a really nice retainer wall there. In that, yeah, in there, there's a lot, actually, believe it or not, there's a lot of garbage in there, and a very thick new layer of trees. I mean, tree leaves in there. They have, since they've owned the property at the beginning of October, so they're very new there. They have pulled a lot of trash out of there. The property owner is willing to and would like to, if the board is okay with it, just sort of take a rake and kind of clean out a lot of the garbage that the lake has brought in there, and to sort of free up the flow that is in there. Mary, I think you've been there, so you more than likely know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It's very junked up. So that was something that I wanted to bring to the full board and find out how we feel about that. I did explain to the homeowner that you can't be doing any kind of digging along the embankments on both sides or digging in that sort of inlet area, but we would applaud her efforts to clean it up and get it sort of get it functional again. There is a small blockage. You can actually see it on the left side, and then towards where it comes in from the lake, there was a small other little blockage. So I think if it sort of gets the, you get the trash out of there and the gunk, it'll help that flow better. So there is that. And then she was looking to also potentially stain or paint the small bridge that you're looking at, the lower right corner. Because this inlet does not consistently flow, I did recommend to her, if the board was okay with that, that probably just a tarp. It's not very deep, so a tarp underneath to catch any small drippings.
For the paint, yeah.
And that is, I believe that is it. We talked a lot about, at the site, about replacements. Did a little bit of educating. So it was really a very nice visit. So any other specific questions? One thing too is she may do sort of an aeration of the lawn to get get the grass to grow a little bit better.
So are these all unhealthy trees, all the ones that are being cut, and just reacting to a lot of trees getting cut?
Yeah, the larger ones, believe it or not, they're not in good shape, Michelle. And the problem is with probably 4 of them, is the way that they grew with the whole grouping is towards the north and the north, so the northeast sides of them. If you were to put down what's around them, you're left with a tree that is sort of
All the branches will be on one side.
yeah, it's lopsided. It'll eventually end up coming down. The one tree that is the largest and I think provides the most canopy there is that oak tree, which you can see. And I think there's 3 or maybe 3 fairly smaller limbs on there that just need pruning. And that will help provide some shade, and it's not far from the water, so it's providing some benefit in various other ways.
Hey, Joey, did you guys come up with a number of replacement trees?
We did not. She wanted to review some different trees online. I did show her some photographs of eastern redbud. We talked about some shrubs like mountain laurel. Dogwood, I mentioned dogwood there. We really don't, she really doesn't want to put any larger trees back there. Much like with a lot of our other residents, they're at a point now where they're afraid of what they're gonna do. And, some of these have already died off. So.
It's helpful for me when I write up the conditions if we have a number, so that way we can kind of evaluate.
Okay. This is my suggestion, and it's up to the homeowner. I would probably at least do a mix of bringing back at least probably six smaller trees, a few in the back, and maybe one or 2 in the front. And then I think it's probably beneficial to just add some shrubbery, along the in the island area, putting some shrubs in there. Melissa, does that sound appropriate for you?
Yes, like I said, I would like, probably when it gets closer to springtime, some guidance from you or education.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would probably recommend, and they won't overcrowd your property. I would say 6 trees to go back, and then probably 10 smaller shrubs.
So like, what do you consider a shrub?
So a shrub would be something like what you're seeing in front of your house. That's not a native, but what was along the property line? Yeah, rhododendron.
Yeah, there we go.
Dendron there.
All right, that's okay.
Yeah, something smaller like that. That one's older and it's been allowed to really kind of grow and become more of a tree, but it's still considered shrub.
Well, this must be a shrub here too.
Yeah, there's a small one there. There's another one if you look to the left there. There's also shrubs along the both sides of the bank where there isn't a retainer wall.
Mhm.
Um,
Along here, yeah.
yeah. So to the commission, also you can add on there too, Mary, Chapter 91, we talked about it with the resident. And she will file by the time she gets to by the end of her permit.
Okay.
All right, so any other comments, board questions?
I'm good.
I'm all set, Joey.
Okay. Dan or Robin, did I miss anything?
Nope. Just good
Oh.
luck with your property. Enjoy it.
Yeah, it really is a nice property.
Mhm.
All right, so with that said, then can we get a motion, please?
Make the motion to find a negative determination on the RDA for 3 Lakeview Road.
I'll second that motion.
All right. Ms. Cirillo,
Yes.
Mr. Bach, Mr. Duteau,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Dr. Jewel,
Yeah, yes.
Mr. Wigglesworth,
Yes.
Mr. Bach.
Yes.
Thank you.
It said that I was supposed to be able to do a temporary unmute by holding the space key. Obviously, it does not work as advertised.
All right, so Melissa, a negative determination is a good thing. That means that we've approved you for a permit. Just so you know with that process. In the spring, I am more willing to come out, maybe, any commissioner that wants to join me, and we can talk about some options for you for the 6 trees and 10 shrubs and areas that can go. And then, during the winter, it might not be a bad idea to look at getting a Chapter 91 done. And then while the lake is still fairly low, we're gonna end up putting together some conditions on how you can safely maintain that inlet that comes through your property. But for now, I would just recommend just taking a rake or even maybe a pool, getting a pool net, and just kind of net everything out. That would probably be the best. So. All right. So we're all set. So you can have a great evening. If Mary will contact you and let you know when your order of conditions is ready.
I'm sorry, when my, what?
When your order of conditions are ready.
What's that mean, order
Your
condition?
order of conditions is it's basically how you are allowed to do the project under Wetlands Protection Act, but also what the commission has just discussed and what you're planning on doing and how it's going to be done.
Yeah, it's basically your permit, so it's your approval.
Yeah.
And because since COVID, we've been mailing them out, so you'll get it in the mail.
All right, I just want to make sure I understand. So it's okay for those trees, but that oak?
Yes. The tree.
Estimates. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. It's nice meeting you, and we'll see you in the spring.
Yeah, thanks, Joey. I appreciate
No
it.
problem.
Bye. Nice meeting everyone.
Nice meeting you.
Thank you, Melissa.
All right, next up, 46 Bates Point Road, Michael Trainer, construction of an addition. If you wouldn't mind.
Dan, do you have the notice for this one? Maybe we might not have gotten it to you because it was from last week's or last meeting.
All right, Mary, do you have it or can we just bypass that on this one?
I can put it, I think I can share it on my screen. Give me a minute. Oh, maybe not.
If it's a continuance, I don't send it to Dan because he only needs to read the new ones.
Right. We just didn't open it last time. That's the problem, I'm afraid. That's okay. We'll figure it out. We're still learning the how to get this this done. And Kelly, I don't think it would be on the web, right? Under an RDA, probably not. The hearing notice.
No.
Okay. All right. So we don't have it. That's fine.
All right, so I guess let the minutes reflect that we're going to just bypass the now required reading of the official notice on 46 Bates Point Road. Do we have a representative for 46 Bates Point Road?
Yes.
Mr. Balsowitz, hey, you joined my club.
I've been there before you.
How you doing?
Good, yourself?
Not too bad. So talk to us about what's going on with 46 Bates Point.
First of all, I'd like to open up and apologize. I was on my way to Montana and I tried to join your meeting and it was in and then I was off, and it's just connectivity out there is not good. But anyway.
It was a good trip.
Yes, it was. If she could put the plan up, I'll gladly explain it.
Is that close enough?
Yeah, if you could just pull it up the page, that's good. I see you have some new members, and for those members and all the members that have been on the board for a while, my name is Stephen Balsovich. I work for BC Engineering and Survey Incorporated. And I am representing Mike Trainer for a project located at 46 Bates Point Road. As you can see by my plan, the retaining wall along the water with wetland flag 1 and 2. Along with that, I drew the 50-foot buffer zone and the 100-foot buffer zone. And as you can see, the addition is beyond the 100-foot buffer zone. And I have it labeled, I can't see the dimensions,
24 by 32.
Correct. That's going to be an addition to the existing house. And forward of the property, there's a detached garage that exists. There's a driveway that comes down for the entrance of the detached garage and also passes that and goes to a parking area located in front of the house. There also is a knob of material and trees there that would be removed because the power lines, and I have them labeled there, go right through all those trees, and with limbs falling on the power lines, they lose power every so often at the house. So they're petitioning Mass Electric to remove that pole just to the rear of the detached garage. And they'll be creating a flat area in there of lawn. The shed would be removed also. And that's about the extent of this project. I show hay bales and silt fence, not hay bales and silt fence, excuse me. That's old school. Straw wattles with silt fence in those two areas. And I also show a 55-gallon spill kit.
What
So
did you, some straw wattles, and what else did you say, Steve?
silk fence and straw wattles.
Okay, okay.
Robin, on all projects, you have the straw wattle,
Right, right. No, I've been, yeah,
erosion,
yeah,
and then the silt fence.
right. No, I know that. No, okay, thank you.
Actually, I may have only put straw wattles because we're outside the 100-foot buffer zone. And as you can see, the grade is flat.
Well, how much of that knob are you taking out, Steve?
Say that again?
How many feet is that knob dropping?
Probably somewhere around 12 to 15 feet.
Well, seeing how, I mean, it's wet now, but seeing how it has been fairly dry and most of the soil around the lake is sand. I mean, the silt fence would be, it's part of the erosion control piece that helps to catch anything that may begin to go airborne.
I don't have a problem with wattles and silk fence. If that's
Yeah,
what
I would just keep the silt fence too, just for standards. Trees coming out.
Yeah, there's all scrub pines and some big oaks and pine trees. We have to remove them all.
Yeah, this is, if we're looking at the house from the lake, and so it's this whole area behind the house, like all of
Correct.
those trees would be going, right?
All the trees in the outside the buffer zone.
And then,
You're
so,
putting grass in, you said, right?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Was this house, did this gentleman come before us to have the walkway around the house fixed it during the summer?
Not this year.
I don't think
Remembering
so.
this home?
you haven't been here probably, not this summer anyway. So these are kind of looking in, there's a ton of trees up there.
That's the telephone pole I'm talking about.
There's the
That's
telephone pole.
why they put it there and the lines cut right through.
And I think Stephen is aware that this may come under the planning, the 70% clearing issue, that the planning board may review this and say that he can't do it because of that. I believe we talked about this, Stephen, or not?
I did send you a letter demonstrating the percentages. It's a larger lot than your usual 5,000 square foot lot. If you look at the plan,
Yeah, it
I would
is.
say that the lot's like 14,000 square feet.
Let's look.
Are you stockpiling anything, Steve?
No,
So you're not keeping the topsoil and putting it somewhere so that you can put it back?
I don't know that it has much value. I don't think there's much topsoil up there. It's kind of just, we would possibly save some, yes, but I mean, for the most part, I think it's all junk. Remove it all and bring in new.
Well, often see.
Oh, I believe I show also a paved area. You can see it if you zoom in just forward of the addition with the garage under.
Yeah.
And so, and with the removal of the shed and the removal of existing, I think if you look at my letter, it describes what net gain there is that I submitted, showing the impervious and pervious area demographics. It's not on the plan, it was a separate letter.
Yeah. Here, maybe not. This must be it. Here we go.
Yes. So if I may, I can highlight the important stuff. Under pre-development areas, the existing dwelling is 1,056 square feet. The garage is 616, that's the detached garage. The shed that's going to be removed is 96, and the existing driveway is 2,275 square feet, which there is a total of 4,043 square feet. And the green area is 9,460 square feet. Percentage of impervious is 30%. With the post-development, after the construction of the new addition, the dwelling is the same, 1,056. The garage is the same, 616. That's the detached garage. The addition is 768, and the driveway is 2,734, and it's a total impervious area of 5,174, which is a 38% impervious, and the green area decreases to 8,329 square feet. So roughly 1,000 square feet of impervious created.
Okay.
And if you look on the back side of that area that we want to excavate, it's all raw earth that has constantly erodes and trees fall off the top of it. If you look at my plan, the neighbor, that is, as you're looking at the house from the road, the neighbor to the right, I don't know if you noticed that, right behind that boat.
Yep.
All along there, it's all just raw earth that's collapsed down. And the neighbor and he are gonna excavate it and then loam it and seed it so it stabilizes it. And we don't have a problem with planting some trees back.
Yeah, I think the concern of the planner was, and I'm not sure how they'll look at it, because I mean, this isn't a previously developed property, but there's a limit in the Lake Watershed Protected District that you can only clear 70% of a lot, clear the trees off of it. So, and probably this is something that the planning board should take up and not the Conservation Commission.
Well, we are under that threshold because the lot itself is 14,000 and change square feet.
All right, well, let's do this. I mean, seeing how there's going to be an open space, a green area of lawn, that's great. But why don't we determine an area towards the end of the discussion where some plantings can go back, Steve, if that's okay.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with planting some trees in the area.
All right.
Should this go before the planning board first, though? So we're consolidating your time. This is what we're trying to do with people from now
Well,
on.
I think what this board has to look at is, do I fall under your jurisdiction? And the answer to that is no.
Yeah, I mean, certainly the addition, I think there's very little issues with that. And then all this work is outside the buffer zone. And when he tries to pull his building permit, then the planner will look at this clearing, I believe. Yeah. And so I guess the commission has to look at it like that.
We're going to look at it also too as a very small margin of this goes beyond the 100.
Right.
So when that happens, it basically pulls the project under our jurisdiction. So what I'm concerned about is based on the design of that house, Steve, what do they currently have for any kind of gutters or managing stormwater off the roof? And what is the proposed for the new addition? Are there gutters? Are we doing rain barrels? Dry wells? Like what are we doing to manage the water so it all just doesn't end up heading down creating it?
I don't have any problems with putting a couple rain barrels.
Okay. So the board, how does the commission feel about that?
Everybody still there?
I'm here.
Yes.
I make the motion that we find a negative determination for this RDA at 46 Bates Point Road.
I will second that motion.
Okay, so, all right, so we voted on that. And Steve, we're just gonna need, to work out. Obviously you committed to some plantings, so we'll have,
The board would like, they can write in a negative determination that we've proposed 2 rain barrels and say 3 trees.
that sounds good to me. Any
Sounds good to
discussion?
me.
All right, Mary, you want to pull the board?
Ms. Cirillo,
Yes.
Mr. Bach,
Yes.
Mr. Duteau,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Dr. Jewell,
Yes.
Mr. Wigglesworth.
Yes. All right. Did we lose Steve?
No, I'm right here.
Oh, okay. All right, Steve, thank you very much. Obviously, please read the order of conditions. Also, you're going to find on there the standard Chapter 91, because Chapter 91, we've got a policy now with filing for that. So, and then if there are any questions, obviously, please reach out to us. Standard best management practices on stormwater.
One thing I think I do nowadays is I always include, I think even in the RDA, I put for a boat, for a dock.
Great. Thank
So-
you. We appreciate that.
It's just a matter of drawing up a sketch how they want the configuration and getting it to you.
It's the state. So
No, I understand.
sorry about that. All right, we're gonna press on. Thank you very much, Steve.
Thank you.
All right,
Have a
stay
good night.
safe.
All right, take care. Stay safe. All right, public hearings, notices of intent, NOIs. We're now on to 302 Killdeer Road. Maureen, I know I'm going to pronounce it wrong. Simic.
Simic, yeah, close enough.
All right. So Maureen and Joe, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
Great, thank you. All right, so we visited your lovely property on Saturday. You've got a pretty straightforward way of fixing your retainer wall and regrading your backyard.
Yep,
Mary's going to get the plans up so that the rest of the board can see, those that were not able to join us. All right, so right now, if you could imagine this, her wall is, I'm probably going to go with 12, probably 12 feet.
it's actually 7 feet high, the wall.
Really? All right.
Yeah, the land itself is 10, but the wall is 7.
Okay, I was thinking around 12.
Yeah, I know, it's deceiving.
Yeah, so it is in pretty dire shape. The middle section is actually going, I mean, I think one more snow loading, ice loading on it, and it could end up in the lake. So,
Yeah, me too. That's our fear.
yeah, so they're planning on cutting the wall in half. And right now, where the wall comes up, there's a slight grade that comes down. But what she's going to do is they're going to cut the wall in half. They're going to have the bottom fixed where appropriate. And then they're going to remove a lot of the hillside and slowly taper the back area. And she's planning on putting in all sorts of native plantings. She wants to put in, I think we talked about blueberries. And
Yeah, mountain laurel
mountain
and
laurels and
hydrangeas. Yep.
Yep, just anything to get the embankment stabilized and have it be a really nice, beautiful slope down to the wall. I did talk to her about the finished grade on the wall needs to be 3 to 6 inches above what the finished grade is.
Mm-hmm.
And then there are a few various other areas on the property that may need to be just fixed a little bit. Last year, we did an emergency cert on a large tree.
Yeah, there should be a picture of that somewhere, but
Yeah, the walkway is sort of a hazard. And it'll probably just either a new slab poured or just fixing, it's tilted.
oh yeah. Next picture I think is up right.
Yeah, there's that large tree that came.
Yeah, that came down.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so this gives you an idea what the slope now is like. The way that it's going to taper down is it's going to decrease that a bit. So very simple, straightforward, no stockpile.
Nope.
You're probably going to need to, you're obviously going to have to bring in some loam on there because as you know, and you mentioned that the soil is very sandy,
Yep.
especially where you're at. So I'm recommending certified invasive free soil to be brought in.
Okay.
Once the wall is fixed, you will need erosion controls towards the bottom.
Yep.
Just, you know, the straw wattle and silt fence until that embankment is stabilized.
Okay.
The only thing is, Maureen, is I don't recommend at this time planting anything.
Yeah, I know. That's the tough
may-
part. Yeah.
You may, obviously, you may need to just get that wall cut, fixed, possibly do the, obviously remove the, what you're going to do on the embankment, and then just probably put a jute cloth over it for the winter.
Yep.
To help with erosion, and then in the spring, probably pick back up with it and get your plantings in, because at this point, what you put in, you're going to end up having to replace because it
Right.
will end up dying.
Yep.
So,
And with the jute cloth, they have landscaping staples that you just drive down to make sure that it doesn't blow.
Okay.
yeah. With this project, if you can find orange silt fence, that would be best. We're going to try to start to implement orange silt fence. Just as it's a visual that, particularly with this project, that you go beyond here, you can end up falling.
Does anyone around here carry that?
There are several places that do, from what I understand, carry it. Home Depot does.
Yeah.
There's a gentleman up,
Yeah, I thought it was the black before.
I think it's Hydro Seed on Route 20, or Hydrograss Technologies, that's what it is. On Route 20, he sells a lot of stuff that is for erosion control mechanisms. So that's what I'm recommending here. And then as far as the plantings, do you have an idea, Maureen, how many you want to get back in there?
I don't actually until it's done, but,
Yeah.
you know, enough obviously so so it holds the banking and that it's obviously pleasing.
Yeah. Just because when we write this up, you know, we usually like to have at least a minimum amount. So
Oh, I would say there's probably gonna be 30 at least, I would say.
yeah, I mean, if it ends up being less than that because you find out that it's crowded,
Okay,
that's good. Of course, you know your natives, and
Yep.
so that would be good. You mentioned them right off the bat when I was there.
yep,
The one other thing too is the Chapter 91 license, obviously.
right.
So I just want to remind you on that, and we covered that at the,
Yeah, now you said if you had an old picture of where the dock was, you send that with it?
yeah, you you fill it out and, you know, because your home has been there a long time, it could end up
Right,
being grandfathered. But if you've got a photo that predates, I believe it's 1984,
oh, yeah, yep,
you know, send some photos.
okay,
They will, they'll more than likely grandfather it for you. But
okay,
that's up to a different part of Mass DEP than the actual wetlands division.
okay.
All right, commissioners, any discussion with this? Questions?
Yeah, what's going in the water? I don't think I heard that.
That's the
Nothing.
chapter 91 license.
Yeah, Laura.
Yeah.
No. What's going in to protect the lake when the wall comes
Oh,
down?
turbidity curtain. We talked about the turbidity curtain.
Okay, that's not on a plan, neither are the erosion controls, and there's no spill kit.
A what kit?
Spill kit.
Right, don't we want those on the plan, even if it's hand-drawn?
Yeah. I'm unfamiliar
Michelle,
with the
it's-
spill kit. I don't,
Yeah, a spill kit is a container that has materials that can be used in the case of a spill of hydraulic fluid or oil or gasoline from the equipment that's being used to do the work.
oh, okay, so the excavator would have that, correct?
The contractor should have one, yes.
Okay, all right.
And Michelle, I think they could go on the plan, but I can also write, because it's such a small area, I think it's easy enough to write the conditions such that, you know, erosions will go at the top of the wall after it's done, erosion controls, and the turbidity curtain will cover the length. I think that will be okay, but yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because usually,
And a spill kit will be on site. I think it's a small enough lot.
Yeah, it could probably go right under the back deck.
Right,
Okay.
that's a good place.
Okay,
And we did mention when we were discussing it that it's the base of the wall is not going to be replaced. The base is, the contractor has already
Correct.
determined the base
Yeah.
is okay, and the new wall section will be put right
yeah,
on
there
top
are
of the wall.
there are some cracks that will be mended, but the wall itself is staying there except for the top half that's pushed out.
Right.
I was muted. Did you happen to contact
Poor Maureen.
Was there another question? I'm sorry.
Yeah, did you happen to contact DEP for your file number?
I have not yet. I have a terrible sinus headache, so I slept most of today, sorry, but I will call them first thing tomorrow morning.
Okay. All right. Because we're essentially not supposed to close out a hearing unless there's a DEP file number.
Right, so we can just, I mean, I can get the order of conditions all ready.
Okay.
And unless there's no comment, I mean, usually I think for this kind of project, EP probably would not have any comments.
Okay.
And the commission will approve it next meeting. And unless there's any comments, there would be no need for you to come on probably.
Okay.
Mary, my concern, and I expressed it there, was her wall is in such bad shape
Yeah.
that I feel like this, we should probably expedite try to expedite the process or do an emergency for her to have that. Because it's leaning pretty good.
Yeah, no, it definitely needs to happen soon. So
Yeah.
I agree.
Okay.
Well, I talked to the contractor, and obviously, if weather permitting, he can begin as soon as we've got everything in order, so.
Okay.
All right, but legally, under Wetlands Protection Act, we can't close the hearing.
Okay, so I'll call them tomorrow morning,
Okay.
and then I can send that information over to Mary.
Yeah.
And then the process is what, 10 days after that?
We'll have another meeting.
Oh, you have to have
After-
another meeting. Okay.
Yeah, after you've received the order.
Okay,
So, and our next meeting isn't for another, it's another that's another 2 weeks.
yeah, okay.
You know, the holiday, you know, I mean, Mary, you've been there, you've seen it. Do you think that we should do an emergency cert while this process is going on? And so she can get that wall, at least they can get.
The weight off of it,
they'll
yeah.
at least get it cut.
Yeah, I would be fine with that. Yeah.
All right,
Does look
commission,
dangerous.
Robin, you were there, and Dan, you were there. How do you feel about Mary doing an emergency search?
I think that has to be done.
Yeah,
That could,
taking care of right away.
Yeah, because you don't know if we have a snowstorm. I mean,
Yeah,
and the weight
exactly.
of that will wait.
Yeah,
I think it should be an emergency.
You're talking about to just remove the top section of the wall in that center area.
Yeah,
just get that done and let the gentleman start getting that wall done before the freeze and the water level starts coming back up with any rain as we're starting to move into a bit of a wet pattern.
Mm.
If we can do that, I'm okay with it.
Okay.
Yeah, I would point out that once that top section of the wall is gone, you do have to do the regrade, so you're then going to have to button it up.
Yep.
Basically, you're getting through 80% of the project on the emergency cert.
Correct.
Yeah, this is just sort of attempt to kind of get her expedited and get it through.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with it. I just want to make sure we're all on the same page that this is how the project is going to be done.
Once he brings the machines in, obviously, he's not gonna take them out and bring them back and take them out and bring them back. So he'll do as much as he can.
Okay. All right. So, Mary, are you in tomorrow?
Probably not actually, but I can, Kelly will be, and we can do this. I can work a little bit from home.
Okay, so I have your email.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we're going to need a motion to continue this for a DEP number and order of conditions.
Okay.
To the next meeting. And also obviously the minutes for safety concerns and embankment stability, getting an emergency cert done. So can I get a motion on that?
I motion, you said a lot there.
Yeah.
I motion what you said, yeah, what you.
That, Robin, it takes a little bit of time, it's fine.
I should have been writing down what you said, Joey, and then I could have motioned exactly.
It's all right. You just, when you motion, it's exactly what's going on, the additional caveats.
So you want a motion for a continuation on this one? And then an emergency cert at the same time?
Yeah.
You said? Mr. Chairman,
Do you
Joe.
want separately?
Mr. Chairman, I'm confused. I thought that when we couldn't close the public hearing, that was the continuation piece. But we could make a motion for an order of conditions. We just didn't close the public hearing.
I think technically we can't make the order of conditions until the public hearing is closed,
Yeah.
but we can add conditions to the emergency cert. So they would end up being the same order of condition, but they are the same document twice. And the easiest thing I think would be just continue the hearing, and then we can do any order of conditions for the emergency cert.
Yeah.
So what are we motioning? Which one?
All right, so motion to continue 302 Kildare Road.
Okay. I motion we continue 302 Kildare Road.
Second.
All right.
All right, Ms. Cirillo. Mr. Bach.
Yes.
Mr. Duteau.
Yes.
Mr. Brown.
The call dropped halfway through this one. Am I allowed to vote?
You may as well abstain. Sorry.
I'll abstain.
Yeah. Dr. Jewell.
Yes.
Mr. Wigglesworth.
Yes. A motion now for emergency certification on 302 Kildare.
I second that motion.
You're gonna make the motion.
I make the motion. We have an emergency hearing on 302 Kildare.
I'll second.
All right, Ms. Cirillo.
Yes.
Mr. Bach.
Yes.
Mr. Duteau.
Yes.
Mr. Brown.
I abstain.
Abstain. Dr. Jewell.
Yes.
Mr. Wigglesworth.
Yes. All right, so Maureen and Joe, thank you so much for your patience, and we will see you next Monday, following Monday, November 23rd.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you so
All right,
much.
you're very welcome. Mary will get you that emergency.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay.
All right. Joey, I have to get off the line tonight,
Absolutely.
so I'm going to get going. But if there's anything you guys need from me, let me know between now and next Monday, or Monday the 23rd.
Thank you, Hayden.
Take
Thanks,
care,
guys.
Hayden. Stay safe.
Okay, so, all right, 5 Cudworth Road LLC, repaving existing asphalt and removal of sediment from a wetland. This is an open order, so we don't need Dan to.
No, this is a new order. We did a determination for them earlier.
Oh, that is correct. Yes. All right. So Dan, if you wouldn't mind reading the advertisement.
Yes. In accordance with Mass General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, as amended, the Wetlands Protection Act, this public hearing is for 5 Cudworth Road, and it replace existing asphalt and removal of sediment from a wetland.
All right. So this is an NOI. Do we have representatives for 5 Cudworth Road here, please?
Hi, Joey. Yes, Dave Cowell. Can you hear me?
Mr. Cowell, how are you doing? Yes.
I'm doing well, Joey. Thank you. I regret that I don't have video feed this evening, but I'll spare you from having to look at me. But for the record, we filed a notice of intent to permit installation of improved stormwater infrastructure, repaving existing asphalt surfaces. This is an industrial site located on Cudworth Way. And we're also proposing to do a very small scale wetland restoration in the context that we've agreed to the commission to remove some sediment from a degraded wetland that was it was the end of an outfall from the prior tenants or the prior property owners. And they had basically a degraded stormwater system that they weren't maintaining, and there's sediment deposition at the end of that. So a bit of the history is that I believe my client was before you earlier for an RDA, and as Mary had pointed out, they received a negative determination. I think they may have, not intentionally not given the whole scale scope of what they were doing out here. This is, our scale of work is in the 100-foot buffer zone only, but to give you the big picture, this was a recent acquisition where our clients had purchased this property with plans to, I think it was a glass manufacturing facility. So in order to meet the criteria of their new tenant that they plan to have in here, they're increasing a lot of parking spaces and basically the loading bay doors for 18-wheelers. Most of the site is outside of the plan that's up before you on screen. The red line details the 100-foot buffer zone. So the majority of this project is outside of the 100-foot buffer zone. In fact, it's an active construction site.
Would you mind just zooming in a little bit for the rest of us?
Yeah, I'll see if I can. I'm not sure that I can on this one. I'll try. I don't know why it's not zooming.
It is the areas that will be, this will give you the big picture overview of where basically the layout is and where these houses are, or not houses, the bay doors are going. But when they came to you for an RDA, they had just said that they were going to in-kind replacement of, it was a stormwater drainage that Mary's pointing at there. Actually, if you move on to the grading and drainage plan, which should be the second sheet.
Oh, here, this one.
This carries some specification detail.
Okay.
And again, I don't know if you can zoom in, but the elements of work in the 100 feet, there was, oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Yep. So when we held a site walk out there, I think now about 2 months ago, and we looked at an area where there was some sediment deposition at the end of this discharge pipe. That was from the prior property owner. There was an existing outfall there that, again, just fell into disrepair. It wasn't subject to operations and maintenance. And we agreed to remove some superficial sediment deposition that's at the outfall location. But also just a review of the project, and holistically, they are repaving and resurfacing asphalt surface area that was out there previously that's degraded. And they're also installing subsurface infiltration chambers, which Mary has called out on the plan there. And portions of this encroach in the outer 100-foot buffer zone. We're able to maintain the local setback zones, and there's no work proposed in those areas, with the exception of the restoration work. So I guess we would look at this from two facets. One is that we've submitted engineering site plans here, stamped by a civil engineer. With paving in the 100-foot buffer zone, there's considerations for stormwater management. A civil engineer had prepared and filed a stormwater management report. This was under planning board review before we got here. And as I understand it, the Webster engineer reviewed and approved the stormwater report. For record, we've submitted it to the Conservation Commission and Mass DEP as well with this filing.
Hey, Dave?
Yes.
We do, after you're done with your, your presentation, we do have Chuck Eaton.
Oh, great.
He's the town engineer that reviewed that, and if we want him to make any comments, we could. So
outstanding. Yep. Yeah, you guys may know more than I. This was I think we're a bit late to the party in the context that this is an active construction site, and we'd been before. They thought we were all set with the RDA, and here we are, trying to get the. I have a minor crisis in my house. I apologize.
I was going to say, are they looking at plans too?
I'm in the care of 2 children right now. My 6-year-old literally just lost a tooth. And Sadie, where did your tooth go? Did you lose it? You guys are gonna have to give me a second. I'm on a meeting. Please, love, please. I'll be there. Sorry, guys. Life. All right.
It's all right, you're not alone,
Sorry,
Dave,
guys.
folks
Yeah.
working from home.
Right. So back down to brass tacks. If we're talking about stormwater, of course, that's subject to your town civil engineer. So yeah, if he has any comments, I'll put him in touch with our civil. We would propose proprietary standard best management practices for in-construction protection of sediment and erosion control, perimeter controls. It's well within the commission's purview to standardize conditions in the order of conditions, such as no stockpiling within 100 feet or any proprietary best management practices you guys would have. And then as it pertains to the wetland restoration area, we were out there, like I said, about 2 months ago, and there's an area where there's some sediment deposition at the tail end of a degraded stormwater outfall. So it really is a very passive approach to hand removal only without going in with mechanized equipment to remove. By my estimation, it's about 300 feet of surface area. And we would go in with shovels and basically just shovel that out. And then there's not really a planting plan in the context that in the existing condition, it's a degraded monocultural stand of Phragmites. And there's really not much that can be done about that. What we plan to do is once we pull the sediment out, is that we would just broadcast seed it with a native seed mix.
Okay.
And if you heard any of that over my children, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
We caught it. Now, at the end of just this pipe that is coming out, that was the culprit from before, you know, as we've walked the site before, this is going to be a good upgrade to the stormwater management of this property. Is there going to be a sort of a riprap pad as that comes out that would maybe catch anything that comes out of that pipe before it heads to the wetland?
Yeah, we have improved the specification carried in our engineering detail is a vast improvement over what's out there now.
Yeah.
If you go to the spec details on if you go down a sheet, I'm looking for, I think it was a flared in culvert, but this is,
okay.
I think a lot of it has to do with treatment where the prior owners didn't, you know, they didn't maintain a consistent operations and maintenance plan. I don't think they scooped, they didn't maintain their catch basins, and it really was just left to attrition. So right now the proposal meets all modern best management standards for stormwater. And they also have an operations and maintenance plan, which the tenants would be on the hook for, you know, and the Conservation Commission is well within their purview to, you know, an annual operations and management report is not uncommon.
Seeing how we do charge to a wetland area, I think, Mary, that we should probably have it in the order of conditions permanently that we do see their O&M, much like we do with some other properties, at least once a year. Now, back to the map of the property. I know that there's some great riprap that goes all the way around the back of the property now. In that far southwest corner, there was a small gully starting to form. Did you happen to, did you address that with any kind of riprap down that slope there? Yeah, that's the corner.
Yeah, this is, yeah, a lot of it's done. So this is what the riprap does not go down the slope, but it's
okay.
It's right along it is, and here's another picture of it. Look, here's the slope, and there's the riprap. Do I have another?
Okay.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. And I think Mary may have, I haven't been on the site in 2 months, so I'm not familiar what they've done to date over the
Yeah,
past.
I caught it, Dave. I caught it, Dave.
Good, good, good.
So, the the riprap that's there now, I think is good for, at least breaking up the energy of any sheet flow that's in this area. The question, probably of the night is, where, do we have a snow deposit area?
Do we have a what now?
Do we have an area where the snow is going to be required to be put during the winter months?
Great question, and the answer is no. I haven't asked them for a snow management plan for construction over winter. And, a lot of times at sites like these are fairly dynamic if they're active construction, where they're putting and managing stockpiles as well as, snow stockpiling in the wintertime or plowing plan. If they haven't already, I suggest that they put catch basin inlets into all the catch basins on site. And then I can ask these guys to provide update as to where they're planning to manage their snow in the wintertime.
Yeah, given the, they're expanding the parking lot size and, the amount of potential snow that is going to need to go somewhere.
And they have, I mean, 80% of the site is outside of the 100-foot buffer zone. But again, the commission is within their purview to put into the order of conditions best management practices for snow management in the wintertime, such as setbacks from catch basins or catch basin inlet protection, or even providing you guys with designated areas for review and approval prior to execution.
Yeah, I think that would probably be really good. And Mary, I'm going to make a suggestion that at least those two corners, particularly where the fall is, there should be, we should have signs put up that say, no snow stowage, no snow dumping. Just as an added precaution, so that I know it's a fairly degraded wetland, but we still just don't want additional stuff that could be carried down there.
Yep, that's a fair request. Because there's no, natural berm or anything stopping. I'm sure they'll hire a snowplow operator to do this in the wintertime, and they may say, the way that, it always gets lost in communication, and a plow operator would just look at, just pushing the snow directly back into that wetland. I don't think signage is a terrible idea.
And looking at this property, that is the most beautiful place to just dump it right over the edge there.
Nope, you're right there, Joey.
Yeah, I would put probably 3 signs across the back of that property there.
Yep, I'll be happy to notify the client.
Yeah. Commissioners, do we have specific questions on this property? I mean, obviously this is a big upgrade from what's there. The company that was there prior was there for quite a long time. For those of you that are old Websterites. So of course things were different when the other company was there, so.
If Chuck is on the call, he might know. I don't, if snow removal was included in the planning board review.
Hi guys, this is Chuck, the town engineer. I don't remember if the snow was the snow stockpiling areas were included. So I can't comment on that. I don't remember, but from the stormwater management point of view, this is a really nice project. It really completely upgrades the site, and with that and the operation and maintenance plan, you're gonna really be protecting the wetland.
Right. All right. So, anything else, Chuck? Notes, things?
No, everything has been addressed with the planning board. And, we really don't have any other comments.
All right. So if there are no questions, additional items for the commission to discuss, I will open this up for abutters. Do we have any abutters here for 5 Cudworth Road? Residents that may have concerns? All right, so with that, then I'll put it out there. Can I get a motion to close the public hearing?
I motion we close the public hearing.
All right, thank you.
I'll second.
All right. Mary?
Oh, sorry, yes. Ms. Cirillo.
Sorry, but just a question. Do they have a DEP number?
Yeah, that's what I was just gonna look up. I don't think so. David, do you know?
Oh, yep, Mary, yeah, let's address that. I apologize. I checked earlier today and it does not look like Mass DEP has issued the file number yet. So we recognize administratively, I don't think that you guys can close or vote to issue tonight. What I propose is if you guys don't have any further questions from us and that you guys are comfortable issuing, an order of conditions on what we presented tonight, would be, Mary, I don't know if the commission would entertain beginning to draft the order of conditions for this. It would be an administrative process by which, assuming DEP issues the file number prior to your next public hearing, that if they don't have any comments for us to respond to, that the commission is already sort of in position that they would issue the order of conditions, but to have it drafted such that at the next hearing, you guys can open the public hearing, vote to issue, whether or not you even need professional representation there or not is arbitrary. That would be my request administratively to see this through.
Well, you happen to board with the woman that makes the numbers, so.
Okay. Yeah. No, I know. I should have.
We need them.
I know. I should have put a call into Kim earlier to jostle it.
Tell Kim we need them.
Yeah. No. Everything is in. I tracked. I have tracking receipt. The check is into DEP lockbox. The paper file is into Central Regional. The electronic copy was sent to the Nero. The Zero web address. So these things, they get hung up. It may just be that the check hasn't cleared revenue yet.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think they have many other projects that were submitted before yours that they haven't issued numbers for. So.
Yeah, that's and with COVID, it takes time. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So administratively, I'm sorry, I forgot to ask about the DEP number. I'm just so used to them being done. All right, so Robin, you rescind your motion to close the public hearing?
Sure.
Okay. All right, so can I get a motion of continuance for 5 Cudworth Road?
I motion we continue 5 Cudworth Road.
Okay.
Second.
For Dan's on a second. Yep.
All right, Ms. Cirillo.
Yes.
Mr. Bach.
Yes.
Mr. Duteau.
Yes.
Mr. Brown.
He dropped off.
Oh, that's right. Sorry. Dr. Jewell.
Yes.
Mr. Wigglesworth.
Yes. All right, great. So we will see you on the 23rd. Dave?
23rd, thank you. Yep. I'll follow up with Mary in the meanwhile on administrative loose ends, hopefully to get us secured up for the next hearing.
Yep.
Fantastic. Great. All right. Thank you so much.
Great.
And thank you, Chuck. I know you'll be on again, but great talking to you.
Thank you, Chuck. I appreciate it. Take care, everyone.
You too.
I need to step away for just a moment. So just give me one moment.
We all just step away for a moment.
It's so quiet now.
I could sing a little if you'd like, Chuck.
Yeah.
Very little.
All right, sorry about that. All right, did I hear Michelle say she was stepping away for a moment?
Yes.
Okay. Robin, you're still there?
I'm here. I just have to get up for a minute.
Taking the pie out of the oven?
Yeah, well, pretty close, actually, put them in, so.
All right, so while everyone is coming back, we're going to move forward here. I'm going to present, next up for NOIs, Notice of Intent 61, 67, 69 Cudworth Road, NU Auction Realty. This is a continued item from October 22nd. I believe we do have Chuck, and I think I saw, yep, Brandon, you're here, you're connected, right?
Yes.
Hear me? Okay. And Mr. Kravosky, you're on.
Thank you.
How you doing?
Everything's good. Hope everything's
Good.
fine. Thank you.
Great, great. All right, so do you want to through Glenn where any,
Chris Keenan is also here.
oh, I'm sorry.
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you.
Oh, hi, Chris, how you doing?
Very well, thank you.
Great.
I'll leave it to Chris if you're asking.
Sure. Chris, go ahead and take it. Where are we at with this project?
I believe the last meeting with the commission on October 22nd was continued due to a lack of quorum. So we had submitted materials in advance of that meeting, incorporating some revised changes at the request of the commission, mainly relocating the stormwater basins outside of the 25-foot policy zone, and making some additional changes to stormwater design as indicated by the town engineer. I did submit an email indicating the specific changes that we made to the plan. I believe there were more than a dozen of them. And then since that point in time, I've also had communication with Chuck Eaton, the town engineer, in regards to the infiltration of the stormwater design and the need to do in situ hydraulic conductivity testing on site. And through some discussion and some calculations back and forth, we had determined that since the stormwater basins do infiltrate, but because they're not required, they don't depend on infiltration to reduce stormwater rates, that we are not required to do that in situ testing. So with the revised set of plans and the stormwater issues that were ironed out with the town engineer, I'd be happy to answer any questions that the board might have.
Okay, Chuck, reviewing new plans, do you have any comments on what we're looking at here?
No, we had one remaining comment that we kind of added here, and you know, it was kind of hard to determine if this was really a wetlands comment or if it was going to be more of like a planning comment. The thought is that, you know, this would have enough of a stormwater impact that we would add it for conservation, and that was just the fact that we would recommend using an engineered loam or topsoil in the stormwater basins so that the topsoil wouldn't limit the infiltration through the bottoms of the basins. And so basically what that is instead of putting a loam down that you'd use on like your lawn or something like that, this is an engineered loam, and it probably would have somewhere in the neighborhood of like 70% sand. So the water would drain through it fairly quickly. So
Chuck, if I may, our details actually propose 6 inches of clean sand in the bottom for the same purpose, to promote infiltration, and we don't plant the bottom with loam and seed. So the idea is to maximize the infiltration rate in the basins with 6 inches of clean sand in the bottom rather than a loam and seed application.
Okay, so So how do you deal with vegetation and that sort of thing in the bottom of the basin?
Part of the normal maintenance, vegetation in the bottom, invasives all need to be removed.
Okay, so how do you prevent, if you don't have any vegetation growing in the bottom of the basin, how do you prevent invasives from, starting to grow in the basin?
Well, the first is the infiltration rate. I mean, with sand in the bottom, we're not going to provide a lot of media to our plants to take hold. And then when we're removing sediment twice a year and invasives from the basin as part of the maintenance process, there shouldn't be an opportunity for invasives to take over. If that's an issue, we're happy to go back to the engineered loam. But Quinn Engineering has designed basins with sand in the bottom, going back about 10 years now. So we're happy to whatever the commission's preference is here.
So Chuck, you're recommending that the loam. Brandon, if I may, as the third-party independent reviewer on this, on these basins, which I'm sure you've seen plenty of them and worked with them. You're, as a professional wetland scientist, do you suggest more the engineered loam or sand in these?
It's an engineering decision on, the most important thing with the basin is whether it infiltrates or not, if it's designed to infiltrate or not. Is it designed to be a dry basin or is it designed to be a wet basin? And honestly, it doesn't really matter because if it's wet, the wetland plants will find their way there.
Yeah.
So it's a build it and they will come. It's a question of whether or not, how fast. If you provide an engineered loam, you get more organic material, so things will start growing a lot faster than if it was just sand. But either way, the wetland plants will find their way. It just has to be wet. They'll find their way.
Yeah, we've got a few that I've seen some cattails in, so.
But if you're maintaining it twice a year, nothing's gonna grow.
So if I can just jump in, I don't mind either way. I don't have a strong feeling either way. I'm just kind of thinking of just from a maintenance standpoint, it's going to be a lot easier if the basin does not, if the basin infiltrates and does not, have standing water and excess moisture in it, it's going to be a lot easier just to mow the basin as opposed to going in and pulling out woody vegetation and scrub and that sort of thing that is going to grow in the sand. And then you'd also have the ability for any vegetation growing there to take up any of the nutrients or those sorts of things that end up collecting in the basin. Most of your sediment is going to be in the forebay and not in the main basin itself. But yeah, I don't have a strong feeling either way. It's really kind of like how the applicant wants to maintain the basins.
Glenn Kowalski, if I could ask.
Yeah.
Chris Keenan. Chris, this is designed to be how high above the water table, please? The bottom.
The bottom of the basin, minimum 2 feet, but in most cases, we're in excess of 4 feet.
There's the dry bottom of the basin. Thank you. I just wanted to bring out that point.
Okay.
We might also say, and Brandon might confirm, that wetlands generally, if it's a hydrologic soil group A, you could have a wetland within 12 inches. If it's a sea soil type, it can be 18 inches down. We're 2 feet to 4 feet above. So generally, we're not going to be growing a wetland if it does drain. And Chris, I believe they're designed to drain within 72 hours, maybe?
That's correct. That's correct.
Thank you again. Thank you.
All right, I think there was a question, Glenn, about, Mary, if you could zoom in a little.
To what area?
All right, on the right-hand side now, it looks like there's an area that is sort of a snow pile area here.
No storage, correct.
Okay. Based on the proximity of where that is to the wetland, I'm wondering if that makes the best decision for that to be located there and could possibly be located somewhere else.
We had originally had the snow storage located at the low side of the parking lot. We had received comment that there was potential that the snow storage could block stormwater flow from reaching the stormwater basin, and we relocated the snow storage to the area that's shown on the plan currently. We tried to keep the snow storage outside of the 25-foot policy zone so that we weren't threatening with pushing snow into the wetland during plowing processes. And we also have a curb shown along the backside of the storage area between the wetland and where we're going to be storing snow to direct any melt runoff over to our stormwater treatment practices. So we did attempt to put some safety precautions in there to make sure that we're not plowing snow directly over into the wetland in that location. You know, we certainly could flip-flop some things around and show car parking over there instead of snow storage, but I'm not sure that parking vehicles closer to the wetland is really what you're thinking about either. You know, snow storage from a parking lot that does have vehicles in it, but isn't a parking lot. You're not going to have customers coming and going all day long. This is, you know, it's an auction operation, so they stockpile the cars here and then they remove them out. I think you've got less of a chance of having any damage or sedimentation or pollution in the wetland by locating the snow storage in this location versus cars. But I'm happy to entertain, you know, comments of the commission here.
How high would the, I know you mentioned curbing, but is there a possibility to put something a little bit higher with possibly a fence so that we don't have a front loader just dumping?
Sure, we could put a fence along that, you know, a chain link fence or a wood fence, or, you know, possibly even maybe Jersey barriers to prevent snow or something getting pushed over the edge.
Yeah, I would feel a little bit more comfortable. Now, where is the closest, how is that going to get to the basin? Where's the closest, the drain, or how is it going?
It flows along the curb line and enters the sediment 4-bay 3A through a small break in the curb line.
Okay.
Right there, exactly.
Yeah, okay.
And that way it doesn't flow through the vehicle storage area. It flows around the parked cars.
Okay.
As a practical matter, if there are quite a number of cars parked in that area, how are you going to get the snow over to that storage area?
Obviously, you know, whenever you have snow removal operations in active parking lots, you're going to have to plow around the existing cars. The applicant has full control over all of the vehicles on site. These aren't vehicles that are parked by customers or something like that. So every vehicle is under the control and can be moved by the applicant during the snow removal process. So even though we're showing cars blocking that that area at the moment, those cars could be moved or left out during winter operations.
And given the area, the parking area, say on the south side there, it's a pretty large area. What's the capacity of that snow storage area compared to the potential amount of snow in the parking area?
That's a little bit of a tough calculation. You know, as you get snowfall, it compacts, and when you plow it, it compacts. The idea is that snow storage area is enough to handle 3 feet of snow during any one removal operation. And it would not need to be piled higher than 6 or 8 feet tall.
Is there a secondary spot on the opposite side of the plan?
There's actually a number of snow storage locations shown on the plan. We've got a large area up by the existing building, and then along the roadway coming down from Cudworth Road, we've got areas where snow can be cascaded off to the side.
That would be on the north side, Mary.
Okay. Now, the other, obviously the last time I had spoken to you, Glenn, I mean, you were in a hurry, you had to get to another meeting. Along in the middle here where that retainer wall goes, basically slopes down to the wetland there.
Yes, sir.
What is
If
along
you,
that line of cars there, seeing how we can't bring that wall back? But how does the flow of water there enter into a catch basin,
Chris?
not go right into the wetland?
Sure, I can speak
Thank
to
you,
that. There's
Chris.
actually not a retaining wall there. It's a 2-to-1 slope. At the top of the 2-to-1 slope, there is a grass swale. So all of the water from the parking lot drains, I guess that would be westerly or easterly. Easterly to the swale. At the end of the swale, there's a catch basin. The catch basin collects all the water from the swale, and then the water is transferred by catch basin, manhole, and pipe down to sediment 4 bay 3A.
In Glenn Kravosky, if I could,
Yeah.
Mr. Faniff had of course, there's a few concerns here, but one of them was to have at least 5 feet from the silt fence to the wetland. We did ask Mr. Keenan, Quinn Engineering, to move and have 5 footers at where you're talking now in the center of the site to ensure that we had adequate area for sediment to be trapped. I believe is the way Mr. Faniff was portraying it. While this is under construction, also that will be jute netted, stapled in, when the slope is completed before it becomes stabilized with grasses. It again would be jute netted and stapled, and a silt fence. S&M Farms would have an entrenched silt fence there, along with our wattle, if that's what we're asking for at this point. Chris, did we beef up instead of a wattle at that point?
No, it's 12-inch wattle with silt fence
12
at
inch.
that point.
We thank you, Chris. We did go with the wider wattle because of the slope, but also the entrenched silt fence. Thank you, Chris. I'm sorry. I'll leave that now to Mr. Wigglesworth or Chris. Anything else?
Not for me, Glenn.
Or Mr. Faniff. I'm sorry.
Okay. Brandon, do you have any comments, additional comments on that? Would something heavier like a mulch sock be better, or?
On a slope like this that's so close to the wetland, a silt fence I think is most appropriate. And you don't need to back it with chicken wire or anything like that. Really, all you need to do is double up on your stakes and make sure that it's properly towed in and stapled.
Okay.
And the 5 feet at the bottom of the hill, what that does is allow the sediment, any sediment coming down the hill, a little bit of space to slow down and spread out and lose its velocity. If you put a silt fence immediately at the toe of the slope, it pretty much just bowls the silt fence right over. So having a little space at the bottom where the sediment can slow its velocity is a good thing.
Okay.
That said, there's still the overarching question of should disturbance be that close to the wetland boundary to begin with, and I know they're proposing replanting within 25 feet, which is a situation I don't think the Concom has made a decision on yet, unless you made one, in a meeting that I wasn't at. So I think that's a topic of discussion.
If I could, through the chairman, thank you, Glenn Kravosky. This was the altered slope, exotic invasives. This had been bulldozed by the previous owner. There was issues with DEP, and Margaret Washburn, I think, was the consultant for the previous owner. This is an area that is altered, existing, not that far in the past, and that's why I grew up with the multiflora rose and the Oriental bittersweets, Japanese barberry, and some other buckthorns are in there. And so, yes, we are close. We want to plant that with native species once it's graded out, stabilized with both herbaceous layer, conservation seed mix, the jute netting, the staple, the plantings, extensive planting that we did in this location to give a forest mast crop, berry crops, which would, and also some hard mast crops that we would be planting in those slopes. Existing altered slope. One thing I will say, we did move outside of the 25-foot zone on the southern southwestern side because that was native vegetation and an older forest. And for that reason, we did move out of that area, the 25. Here we're planting 25. Thank you.
On this area that is just north of the slope that we're talking about, there looks like there's a line of cars and then looks like 6 cars parked behind it. What is the island? It looks like an island that's going to be there. What is that island going to be? Is there possibility on some of these islands to get some vegetation back?
Sure. What we proposed in that area right now is snow storage and loam and seed. But, you know, we could certainly work some additional trees in there if that's what the commission is looking for. Shrubbery probably isn't going to be real easy to incorporate because of snow storage requirements. But we could certainly show some trees in that area if that's what the commission's looking for.
Well, I mean, I think areas of, you know, where we could, you know, potentially put back some vegetation. That way we're not sending during summer hot water right into a wetland.
Sure, and one of the reasons we proposed the traffic-based surfacing for the parking areas and asphalt for the tractor trailer traffic along the driveway was to limit the amount of pavement we were putting there to kind of control the heat island that we're proposing.
And if I could, through the chairman, and additionally, this runoff water will go through the forebay, through the basin proper, down gradient, and before it would be discharged into the wetland on the southwest side. And this is a long trip over to the French River. This is a drainage area that doesn't drain to Webster Lake. It does drain to the French through, I believe we calculated at one time before, Chris, maybe quite a bit more than 3,000 linear feet to the French.
It goes underneath the highway, I believe.
It goes underneath 395, receives the runoff from 395. We've been monitoring temperatures coming off of DOT properties, and yes, upwards of 85 to 90 degrees coming off of DOT, as we have a trout brook in South Oxford, and that's why we're, and Route 12 is an issue, and yes, there we do have issues with heat sumps coming directly in, but those areas are not detained through forebay or detention structures from DOT, Route 12. This is. Oh, and 395 also has no detention structures over there. Thank you on that matter.
Yes, thank you. All right, so Brandon.
Yep.
Any other comments aside from that, obviously that proximity there?
Yeah, there's a lot of proximity to the wetland line all through there and to the right, you know, down going towards the basin. But I can understand what Glenn's saying is down by the basin number 3, where they were in relatively unscathed woods as far as invasive species go. They shifted it away, and these other areas do have a lot of invasive plants. So, you know, you could disturb it and then replant it and make it better, but it's a very long stretch. So I still recommend that as a discussion point.
Yeah.
As far as any other issues, I forget because it's been a while. I did go to witness the additional test holes in the middle of October. I think it was October 14th.
Yes.
And in basin number 1, we found up to 15 feet of fill material. And I remember that Chuck had a question about the contents of the test holes. whereas one of the test holes, closer to the road, was showing native material, but that should have been where the fill was. And what I found out on site was that a couple of the test holes were transposed as far as numbering. So the test holes that were closer to the road were the ones with the fill, and the ones closer to the wetland were the ones was the one with native material. That sound about right, Chuck? Am I getting that right?
Brandon, this is
If I can
Chris,
get
Quinn
my mouse
Engineering.
to work, yes.
Oh.
Yes.
Okay. So yeah. So I mean, the test holes we saw, I concurred with everything that I saw, and that it's amazing that area where stormwater was a basin 1A, storm basin 1. I mean, they had a machine that went down 15 feet and it still wasn't at the bottom of the fill. Okay, so yeah, that's basically it. That's what I have to add for now.
Okay. Commissioners, comments, questions?
Good.
Okay. I'd like to definitely see some, Mary, could you zoom out just a little bit? I mean, in certain areas, if we could try to I understand it's a parking lot, but in all sorts of parking lots, they're able to at least put some vegetation back, on some of the islands and whatnot. So if there would
Through the chairman, this still has to go through planning board, and they might require things over 100 feet away from wetlands, or they may require planting.
Yeah. Okay.
So what about where we're awfully close to the wetland that Brandon keeps suggesting we should discuss? Are we just looking at it as okay?
Once that slope is stabilized, Glenn is as part of the O&M or what have you, is there going to be a procedure to consistently monitor this to make sure that it doesn't slip, it doesn't form rills or gullies or anything like that?
If I could add to that, this grass swale that Chris has at the top is to prevent overland flow over that slope. So the only rain that's going to be going on that will be direct rainfall, not overland flow, which will work to stabilize. It's a short slope. It is 2 to 1, but it doesn't have a half acre or multiple linear feet of hillside draining to it. The swale will be built by the contractors to carry the waterway, then caught in the catch basin, as Mr. Keenan had stated, and taken away from that area. And our goal will be to monitor it, and it can be put in the order. The first year, we normally get 85% with the mini excavators of the exotic invasives. And then we're going to be going back in, as I recommend on any exotic invasive plant removal project, that at a minimum, you look at that other 15%, those little root oriental bittersweets that you might miss.
Yeah.
To go back and look at it the second year, to go back for exotic invasives the second year. I just did one of these last week in Sutton, and we did pull out anything. If there was roses just into the fringe of the wetland, we do hitch a strap around a cinch and we pull those out so they're not seeding back in. Oriental bittersweet itself doesn't grow well in wetlands, but you do get some multiflora rose encroaching a bit. It is fact up, so it has a potential for 1/3 of the time to be growing in a wetland. It will encroach. We're going to be taking any roots, any plants with seed, the potential to seed back onto these slopes out, any exotic invasives, I should say, in the general vicinity, so we're not left with this seed stock coming back in. And that's why the second year of removal should be required to ensure that we're doing diligence to remove exotic invasives, so these native plants, the woodies that we plant, do have the ability take over, grow, and shade any seedlings that might come in. In fact, Mr. Keenan again we did a very dense planting in that area to help to shade the ground to prevent seedlings. But our job will second year look for those and initially remove 85+% before we get under full construction of this area.
Okay.
It's going to be an extensive project in order to do it correctly along that edge, that 25-foot edge. But that's our goal, is to remove the material so it's not seeding back.
Okay. Is there the ability to put any kind of plantings in there that would help with that area due to its close proximity?
That slope is planted, will be planted. That
Well, I
one
mean,
in the center we're looking at right now is to be. Chris, we have a plan on that, correct, on planting?
It's actually the plan that's up, and what we're showing is a note at the bottom of the page indicating that we're supposed to plant the 0 to 25-foot policy zone with 15 of each of the following plants, and you list a number of different species that needed to be planted in there. So
okay.
I think we're talking about in excess of 100 plants.
Okay.
Thank you again, Chris.
All right.
But maybe, Joey, what did we do with that corner down by the wall?
Down by the wall.
Isn't that to the right?
To the right.
In the sort of southwest area?
No, more to the right. Like
Southeast, sorry.
top right to the end of the plan. No, I'm in a different location.
Move the plan over so we can see the lower right corner of the plan, possibly.
Upper right, I think.
Thanks, Mary.
Thank you.
Right. Yeah, so
Yes.
in the upper right, where the 25-foot line goes right through a car, isn't that where the wall is and you're like practically on the wall with the erosion controls? Or am I confused?
If I could, through the chairman, and I believe, and Chris, if you could help me here, I believe we're just lower in elevation. I'm looking at post grade 544, 546 above that we're actually lower than the wetland at that one location. So water can't flow uphill. I know we're clearly that with the post grading more to the left, that all our work is downgrading of that stone wall, the colonial stone wall. But even in this corner, we don't have water flowing out of that corner to that wetland, and we might call it wetland flags 7A, 8A, that tight corner. We're just downgrading with our work.
But in that particular corner, you're working almost to the wetland line, or am I misreading?
I believe in that corner, the edge of that pavement there to the wetland line is approximately 18 feet. We can tighten that up to 25 if that's what the commission's looking for. That's not a problem. But again, it was left there because that area is down gradient to the wetland.
And it's already cleared also.
That's right. This is the area where there was several trees and they had gotten taken down.
That's right at the area where we split between the 12-inch wattle with the silt fence leading down the page, but we only have an 8-inch wattle with no silt fence on the upper part of the page because the silt fence, or the wattle in that location is only preventing run-on, not runoff.
So essentially, Joey, you're saying that's already torn up and there's no preventing damage there.
No, I mean, I agree with you. I mean, obviously, as all of us know, the farther away from a wetland, I mean, the best, the better. So I don't, I mean, if we could possibly set that up a little bit, Chris, I mean, that would be appreciated.
I mean, we're talking about eliminating that one car in the corner there to get us to the 25-foot policy zone. That's not a problem.
But isn't there also work beyond that? Right, so there's the car, but then there's other things going on past that line, right?
Past the car to the right, we're showing a tree clearing line down along the existing stone wall, and then grading up to the stone wall with a 12-inch wattle and silt fence just on this side of the stone wall.
And then once the curbing goes in, it's left to go back to its natural state, or is the curbing right up against the stone wall?
The curbing is approximately 7 feet from the stone wall.
Okay. The stone wall is to be left?
The
Yes.
stone wall is to be left, and the stone wall follows along the property line.
Oh, okay.
So, sorry, Joey, you're faster than I am on this.
Yeah.
So does that mean there's that 7 feet between the wall and the curbing currently is disturbed or will be disturbed as far as this plan is concerned?
Well, what he was suggesting was moving that car out of there, either eliminating a car,
I'd be happy to show a tree there that you're looking for.
Bury it, the car somewhere else, and then bring that corner in a little bit too close to the 25 mark. And then if we could maybe get a little bit of, just some vegetation back in there, a tree, would be great.
Through the chairman, if I could ask Chris, I see a scalloped line along the stone wall that's perpendicular with the page. That must be Jarvis picked up that limit of work, that clearing. So the clearing did go up under we didn't file an RDA. The commission had a site inspection. I was there with Mary and some of the board members, and that was allowed to clear up to the stone wall.
That's correct. That's currently cleared.
We weren't aware of this wetland over here, so we had in mind this wetland.
I was there with the commission and with you, Mary, when I walked over the stone wall, and the wetland was just over the stone wall.
Okay.
So I'm not sure how much was unaware or aware, but I was at the site inspection, and I did go over the other side of the stone wall, and that wetland was pretty obvious.
So we approved clearing?
I think we stopped clearing.
Yeah, we had stopped the clearing at the time, and then Margaret was on the project and she dropped off, and then Glenn, you picked up the project. So what we were looking at was clearing that was done without an actual permit.
I won't argue that it was done without a permit. I got involved at the time that it was being allowed or approved, however you want to put it. But that's right when I walked onto the site. And I didn't even know Margaret Washburn was ever involved with this, except for years ago with Joe Bellino.
Yeah, Margaret was probably a couple months right before you, because Mary, when we went out there to stop.
That's what happens when you have Margaret involved. There you go.
I think Margaret never actually met us there. It was just you and me, Joey. She was asked maybe to take the job, but declined or something like that.
Oh, you know what? She had done some sort of delineation at some point, I think.
Right.
That's what it was. Her old flags. We were looking at her old flags.
Yeah.
We were out there right before COVID started last year. I mean,
yeah, that was one of your first site visits, I think.
Right. Yeah, that's why I remember exactly what Glenn said. I remember the wetland area that he's talking about.
Yeah, but
if I'm oblivious, then I must really remember it well, okay? Because I remember what he was saying.
Yeah, I remember the wetland being right there at the wall. I just don't remember it being cleared up to the wall.
No, it was clear. It was cleared to the wall. Because when we walked around that corner, there was a big pile of debris in the middle here, and we walked over to the wall. I was standing there with Glenn. It was pretty clear, and that was one of the first things I noticed, because it looked like a brook running through there.
No, I remember it too.
If I could, that is an intermittent stream just inside the BVW lines at that point. It's probably 20 feet in from the wetland line going up the page.
Yeah.
25 feet, as I recall. It's like that corner quite well.
Yeah.
The wetland came up to the stone wall, but it was down in a hole or in lower elevation, the wetland itself, than the wall.
Joey, that's where you gave me my first tree lesson with the branches and all that jazz. Don't you remember that?
I did.
Okay. But
so if we could,
I think Mr. Keenan was, if I could represent the client, Mr. Keenan was proposing, and I know we want to get this to the moving on, but
Yeah.
to move that in that area, to plant something in the corner. I'm sure the client was inclined to want to see this thing move on, but if there was a request to do something in that corner and eliminate the car, or at least be 25 in protecting that corner, I suppose we would work to do that.
If we could, I mean, if we could tuck that in a bit, that would be ideal. At least we're away from that.
That close point, that very close point. Thank you.
Yeah. Commissioners, any other questions? Brandon, do you have anything else? I mean, I know I've asked you twice already. I just want to make sure as we're talking through this.
I think at this point I've exhausted everything.
Okay.
I think the commission should go around and decide. I mean, they're making a change over here. Just make sure everyone's happy with this section, or whether they want to ask them to pull.
I've offered, I might say this to the chairman, we've offered this upper right corner. I'm not sure how much more we're going to be going into other areas where we clearly offering restoration where the degradation had occurred. And from where you're talking in the middle all the way to the left, those are degraded areas that had been altered, as he said, as Mr. Faniff said, 14 feet of push. This was all under DEP, under Margaret Washburn as being the consultant.
Yeah.
To restore those zones that are now exotic invasive, and it's our pleasure to do that and monitor for 2 years.
Okay. Mary, let's make a note of that, a monitor of as part of the conditions. Is the commission okay, on board with tucking in that corner?
Yep.
Fred?
I'm sorry, Joy, what was the question? You faded out just when you asked it.
That that sort of northeast corner where it's close, where Mary's going right now, eliminating that one car, probably putting it somewhere else and just bringing that into the 25 line. So that it comes away from that intermittent stream.
I'm good with that.
Okay.
I've got no problems.
All right, thank you. I got one last question before I open it up to the public, Glenn.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
What's happening with the empty space along the roadway? There seems to be a lot of empty space towards the roadway.
Mary, could you show it, please? Thank you.
So we got the dwellings right now on the west. We've got, looks like an isolated in the middle there, and then there's a lot of, is this going to be lawn? Is this going to be put back to a natural, allow some other vegetation to go in there? What's the thought?
The thought is that it's well outside the 100-foot buffer zone and that it's going to stay lawn, and we're not going to use it for parking cars.
Okay.
And I would just add that much of that is wooded. We are showing an existing tree line along the front there. So the idea is to leave the front natural as not to alter the characteristic of the neighborhood out on Culdrith Road, and to try to tuck the parking operation out and back where it's not as visible from the roadway.
If I could add, thank you, Chris. If I could add, though, some of the area where you see that isolated wetland, I believe, Chris, you 600 and something, I don't have it on there, but the square, oh, there it is. It's right there. Is that it? Anyways, it's very small square footage. That is a lawn area, Chris. I know that Jarvis had shown a scallop line, but from the scallop line to the right of it, or to the southeast, that becomes wooded over, continuing over to where it shows it stopping. But to the left, or to the lower left, that is a lawn area. That's one of the few places I kind of wonder what Mr. Jarvis might have been inferring with that scallop line.
He may not have picked up in an interior grass area. I know we do have lawn either side of a wooded area up there, but I know we did go back out to relocate those wetlands flags. So it's possible that we've got some grassy areas that have mixed in with the wooded area back in there.
When I did the test puts and put the stakes out there, I just know that, and I know there's abutters that understand that too. So we don't want to say that it was all wooded. That's why I want to bring it up. We don't want them to maybe argue that point. We'll be clear about it. Where that isolated wetland is and going to the left, if I could use the word left, it is grass.
Okay, I was curious.
So I have a question as well, and this is more for my peace of mind because I'm trying to understand this. So cars have oil and gas and all kinds of stuff, right? So if I understand, we walk through stormwater management, but if there's anything that came out of a car, gas or oil, does that get cleaned up along the way, and where?
Chris?
Me to understand.
We do have procedures for hazardous spills on site, and they do need to be cleaned up in accordance with DEP cleanup requirements. I believe anytime you've got a spill over 5 gallons, it needs to be reported to DEP and cleaned up by a licensed site professional. You know, we do have, it is a vehicle storage area, so you're going to have small amounts of hydrocarbons that end up on the surface of the parked area. Those would get washed towards the stormwater structures, and the pre-treatment devices are intended to remove those oils and sediments prior to recharge back into the ground. So there's 2 processes for cleaning up of a hydrocarbon. A large spill, there's a cleanup process through DEP, and for small stuff that's not really reportable or to the size of a cleanup, the stormwater management structures are designed to take care of that.
Could I ask through, ask Chris, do we have hydrocarbon as far as within the catch basins? Do you have structures in there that are going to remove hydrocarbons that have to be then cleaned later?
We do have hoods in the 3 catch basins that are proposed on site, but the catch basins don't collect most of the water. Most of the water sheds directly into the sediment forebase.
Thank you.
Thinking, I mean, obviously that's one of the things that we're obviously thinking about significantly with a wetland right in the middle of this is in the event that, you know, you do have some sort of major spillage or, you know, God forbid a car were to fall off of, you know, while loading and cracks open to something. Is there a possibility of putting a small box somewhere that's got what someone needs to just like almost like the spill kit, Glenn, that stays permanently in the area so that, all right, we've spill, we can run to this box, grab what we need and take care of it right away?
If I could, I believe Chris would be the first one to ask, but for the client, I would also say that if Chris doesn't have, and I believe he has almost all the answers, but we would have no problem with having a couple of spill kits that are available throughout the site in case something like that happens. 3 of them, if they're all chained in and locked down and
yeah, I think
permanently stuff like that. If that helps us help the commission that hydrocarbon, their workers are doing something where fall off a car carrier, which is be extraordinary, but.
Yeah.
If that did happen, normally you don't bust the tank open, but we'll take those extra precautions, and I'm sure they'll come out at the planning board. But
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Chris, I spoke there, but that is I don't see the
That's
client.
not a problem. That's not a problem, Glenn. We actually have on sheet 6 of the plan set hazardous spill implementation plan measures, and we do require them the applicant to have spill kits and cleanup materials on site. We didn't specify a location, but we did require that they need to be on site, and the location that they determine on site needs to be publicly available. So if the commission wants to see specific locations on the plan that we haven't shown, we can certainly do so. We were trying to allow for a little bit of flexibility for the applicant to make that determination on his own, but if the commission wants to nail it down, we certainly can do so.
Thank you, Chris.
Commissioners, what do we think? Do we want to ask for I mean, do we want to just require that there be at least a minimum of 3? Or do we want them in specific locations? I think specifically around, you know, your wetland area, and someone doesn't have to run far to grab something.
I agree.
Okay.
What,
Yeah.
one last point on that, and I'm sure that Chris can back this up. I would say everything is directed not towards wetlands as far as before it gets to 4 bays, catch basins, 4-bay detention structure. So we don't anticipate something busting open and then coming into that, as you stated earlier, degraded wetland with phragmites. That's when you were talking about Guardian Industries, which it doesn't matter to me if it's degraded or not. The water leaving still should be clean so that it's receiving water down gradient is always as clean as can be. There's no, whether it's Guardian Industries or anywhere else.
Yeah.
And that one actually drains to Webster Lake. So whether it's phragmites, it still ends up scrubbing nutrients and colloidals before it gets to any receiving water downstream. So Chris has designed this to make sure that no overland flow can go directly to wetlands.
Okay. All right.
Joy, to answer your question,
Yeah.
I think it would be an excellent idea to have 3 cleanup kits.
Yeah.
Probably one toward the north end, one toward the south end, one in the middle somewhere.
Yeah.
And somehow, however they're located, to make it very obvious that that's what it is and that's where they are. For that many cars in that big an area, it would seem prudent to have that kind of equipment available.
Absolutely. Yeah. With a nice clearly marked sign, and in case you never know, folks are in and out of the state and they just know. So, all right. Anything else? All right. I'm going to open this up to, did I hear someone? All right. I'm going to open this up to the public. Any abutters with comments?
Hello, Mr. Chairman. This is Michelle Smith.
Michelle, how are you?
I'm all right. How are you?
Thank you.
Hi, everybody.
Good.
I do still have some comments. I guess I would first ask if through you, Mr. Chair, if there could be a discussion by the applicant's representative about the composition of the T-base and what that comprises. I know there was a comment about the selection of that specific surface treatment for purposes of decreasing a heat island effect, but it's my understanding that those materials are made of effectively the same as what asphalt is. So I just want to clarify, that's not really going to have a material effect on temperature. So I guess my question really to the applicant through you, Mr. Chair, is why those areas aren't being paved to help with pollution prevention in terms of migration. If there's only like a 6-inch effectively stone or tailings base, that allows for a potential migration of dripping, not a spill per se, but fluid sitting and dripping while cars are stored there over time, and potentially can affect the groundwater, as well as the down gradient resource areas where that's ultimately flowing. So I just wonder why asphalt wasn't chosen instead for that overall surface treatment. I will stop at that one comment.
Mr. Chairman, Chris Keenan, I can respond to that.
Sure.
The choice of using traffic base is basically twofold. One, it does have the potential to reduce heat retention. The traffic base is specified on the plans as being necessary to adhere to mass DOT requirements for subgrade for roadways. That's typically a gravel material. Mass DOT does allow a certain amount of recycled asphalt product to be used as the coarse material in that aggregate, but it does not compromise 100%. So while you do have a small amount of what I call black rock in there that it would absorb heat, it's not to the extent that the pavement would absorb heat out there. The second is purely cost. The applicant had requested that if we can come up with an alternative that doesn't require him to pave the whole site, that he would be interested in exploring that avenue. So that was the second reason that we went with the traffic-based proposal. In Ms. Smith's comments regarding hydrocarbons soaking into the ground and reaching the water table and polluting the wetlands. The traffic base in absorbing hydrocarbons, the oils and gases, whatever it may be, physically stick to the sediment, or I'm sorry, the material that's put down at the traffic base, the sands and stuff that are in it, actually bond to the hydrocarbon. So that material is pretty well locked in place, unless the material moves through erosion. And because we've surrounded the parking lots with sediment forebays in series and infiltration basin, the likelihood of that sediment that's carrying the pollution of reaching the wetland is unlikely. It's going to be removed in the sediment forebay, and then that material is going to be removed yearly as part of the sediment removal process. So that material is considered hazardous waste. It does need to be disposed of properly, but there is a process for collecting that material from site and disposing it so that it doesn't reach the on-site wetland.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, if I could continue with a couple more comments.
Sure.
I guess I would just affirm that my prior comment, I still have that concern with respect to migration of pollutants. A 6-inch base of gravel doesn't seem to me adequate to prevent pollutants of a use of this caliper, even though ultimately the treatment train were stormwater to migrate to the treatment train and not instead infiltrate through the ground, would treat for that. My concern would be accumulation of those contaminants within the buffer. The next comment that I have, or question, I suppose, is about kind of material stockpiling. We talked a lot about snow already tonight, but I'm curious during construction about material stockpiles. Were the commission to issue an order, I'd certainly like the commission to consider, and I'm not sure if that's part of your normal course of practice, location of stockpiles. It seems like there's ample room for that to occur outside of the buffer zone and wouldn't be necessary to be within the buffer. So I just wanted to ask about that specifically. And related to that, just in terms of site management during construction, looking at the erosion control plans, which really comprise perimeter controls. My main concern about management of the site during construction is just about the area of open sediment potential migration and what the protocol and plan is for sequencing and installation of temporary stormwater management devices, including the timing of installation of the basins, if those are going to be used for temporary purposes as well, related to other site activities to ensure that the stormwater is making its way to those basins during construction and not picking up, the run-on that's coming down the hill isn't going to pick up, all of the erodible material and make its way down to the wetland without treatment. So I know there's no plan put forward there. I did read through the 1.5 of notes from the construction general permit that were copied and pasted, but I didn't see anything indicative of exactly what means and measures would be installed, other than there was a sequence of simply install erosion controls and then do clearing, grubbing, and then do stormwater management. So I just would be concerned about the sequencing of those activities and ensuring that there's adequate temporary storage or conveyance, depending on exactly what's going on site, for those measures during construction. So that's the next comment, and I will pause there.
Chris?
Stockpiles.
Stockpiles, we didn't show a stockpile area on the plans. We're happy to show stockpiles if that's what the commission is looking for, or we're happy to have the commission issue a condition that no stockpiling shall be permitted within the 100-foot buffer zone.
I would prefer that stockpiling and refueling of any machinery be out of the 100-foot buffer. So that probably looks more towards the front, the street side of the property.
Sure, that's fine, and it's just up to the commission as to whether they want to do that by condition or if they want to see it on the plan.
We generally like to see that on the plan, so with getting a new plan to us with that corner tucked in. If you happen to decide on some 3 locations for those boxes where the spill kits will be, you might as well add the stockpile on, Chris.
Sure, not a problem.
Yeah. And then, of course, we condition that with, you know, I think on this project, we should have it covered and obviously silt fence and wattle around it when it's, you know, for protection.
Okay.
And if I could, Chris, and through the chairman, please, that the basins would be constructed first so that any runoff will be directed to the basins. As we know that, Chris, you might have outlined all that, but I would say that the client would clearly, and the contractor would have to accept it, that we build the basins so that we do have water being trapped during construction, as we can't anticipate a 3-inch rain event or a 4 such as that, or a 2. So in the city and in other ones that I'm sure, Chris, you do too, put them with Quinn Engineering as far as put the basins in first to catch that runoff, so we don't have colloidals leaving the site during construction, or at least that we're catching all that heavy filling silt, and some colloidals, the majority can be trapped out before that gets to the wetland. On a site of this size, I would, and on a slope, I think the basins are at the low point, left and right, that they would serve a great purpose during larger storm events during construction.
That's correct, Glenn. We do have construction sequencing that require, prior to any other work going on site, that the stormwater basins and controls need to be in place and inspected by a town representative prior to moving forward to any further construction on site. In addition to that, what we're proposing on site for our basins are infiltration basins. And infiltration basins really should not be used for temporary construction basins, as they tend to collect a lot of sediment, and it limits the future infiltration of that basin by collecting sediment during construction. So the plans call for the contractor to locate where he sees fit temporary basins, and they need to be sized to handle 3,000 cubic feet of stormwater. So we really left the means for locating temporary basins to the contractor as he moves around the site, and he will construct them in accordance with the stormwater pollution prevention plan and notes. But in addition, you know, the contractor and the plans allow him to use temporary diversion measures or hay bales and silt fence, or whatever he needs to control construction runoff from reaching the wetlands and from reaching the stormwater facilities. Now, the stormwater basins, of course, because they're downgrade, they're certainly going to accept the water from these temporary basins that the contractor installs, but they should most certainly be used only as post-construction stormwater management facilities, because the infiltration basins, if they're used during construction for control of runoff, they are going to be full of sediment, and there is a threat of reduction in infiltration rate if you're using those. So, well, the plans do require the contractor to create separate temporary basins during construction.
Thank you,
Chris. Thanks for bringing that up. I was gonna make that point as well. Very good.
Great. I've got one. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Michelle, if you're not done.
Sure, and I appreciate that clarification. I know that we often see, although it's not a preference, that basins end up being used as a temporary measure, you know, provided that they're going to excavate and watch the bottom grade to make sure there's still that infiltrating capacity, and that's not going to be affected. I know that there's one of the basins is in fill here, so I wasn't sure if perhaps that was what was being proposed or not. So I appreciate that clarification. And maybe I missed it, that there was a detail for that proposed temporary sediment basin for the contractor for he or she to reference on the plan set. I think I just missed that or wasn't able to locate it on the plan.
It's actually described in the notes, Michelle. There's no detail for it.
Okay. So I guess my recommendation might be to include, through you, Mr. Chair, if the commission were to share that concern, but just to include a standard detail for what that would look like, so that if the contractor is being left up with the discretion of where those are getting located and the commission isn't specifying the specific locations through review of the plan, that at minimum, everybody be on the same page about what that standard detail is, so that the construction of it can be in compliance with what everyone understands a temporary sediment basin to be. I've seen lots of them that aren't really functional in that way. So I think a spec is better when possible, just because, you know, a picture is worth 1,000 words.
We're happy to have that, Michelle.
Thank you.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Mary, you've got that right.
And the other comment, I know I had expressed this to the commission before, about the location of parking and evaluating other opportunities on the site out of the buffer to consider locating that. I understand there's an intent to preserve the character along the road. As a resident in this area, I certainly appreciate that. But there is, as I think Mr. Kravetsky stated, an area that is kind of open lawn over along the back of where the existing dwelling is. So I had wondered where the snow storage area is there. If there wasn't an opportunity just to consider relocating that kind of bank that's closest to where that 25-foot disturbance, that sloped area, if there was a consideration given to relocating just a kind of that smaller pocket of parking over into that area where it looks like grading would be relatively minimal to be able to accommodate that. So that was one comment. And then just on the planting notes about the buffer disturbance replanting plan, I don't know that there's a specific size or gallonage for the plant. So I might suggest that be added. But I'm reading it with my head turned, so I again could have missed that.
If I
So
could on
just again, so that everyone knows what's being planted exactly.
Yep.
To answer the question, if I could, through the chairman, on the size of the plants, we at least EBT, 98% of what we plant, wetland or upland, comes out of New England wetland plants. And we do understand one thing, that their plants are great rootstock, but the other thing we understand, they're all small. We have to wait. I hate to use other examples, but Diamond Chevrolet, we just planted that 2 years ago, and the stuff has grown. Some of the speckled alders are now 7 feet tall. Silky dogwoods are probably 5. So we don't get big stuff out of them. They go through it rapidly. We do have to wait a couple years to see the stuff that's 5 and 6, or even with speckled alder larger in that couple year period. But we do appreciate the native stock that they have, and we appreciate that their root systems are great. And if we went to a Bigelow nursery or somewhere else, then you're jumping up into that 7 or 8 foot high, 9 foot and I'm not sure we're getting as great native stock as we do from New England wetland plants. And again, we've been waiting the couple years in order for it to grow right. And so that's just what I could say about size. We buy it in New England wetland plants, and it's not the biggest stuff, but it does thrive and it does grow.
I can also vouch. I know the Andersons over there,
well, yeah.
and they are terrific New England wetland plants. So, all right. So, Michelle, did you have any other comments?
So I have some suggested conditions, which I'm happy, depending if the commission is going to close the hearing or not, I'd be happy to email over to Mary.
That would be wonderful. Yeah.
And then the last comment that I had, or question more than anything, would be about the status of all other obtainable permits, including the reference special permit that would be needed for the use based on the comments that were provided to the commission from, I believe it was the building commissioner, and what the status of the sort of timeline and filing of those applications might be.
Sure, I can speak to that, Mr. Chairman, Michelle. We knew that the process with the Conservation Commission was going to be potentially lengthy. So we had held off on filing with the Planning Board until we had a plan that was workable for both boards. I think we've probably reached that point. So within the next few weeks, we would anticipate filing with the Planning Board for required permits. I don't know whether the special permit is something that's required or not. It may require a conversation with the building department, but I believe since none of the cars are here more than 30 days at a time, they're not subject to that special permit, but I can certainly verify that.
Good point, Michelle. Any other questions or comments?
No, can I ask?
Through you, Mr. Chair, no, thank you for the opportunity to comment. My main concern in asking about that is just if there's potential for that to change at the planning board level to make sure that the plans are consistent with what the commission approves, that's all.
Sure, and if the plans need to change because of planning board comments or requirements, we're happy to come back to the commission, reopen the hearing for revision.
Absolutely.
And through the chairman, I did discuss this with the owner, one of the owners, late this evening, and he's aware that we, as Chris just stated, that if there were major changes, that we would have to come back in front of you.
Okay. Commissioner Carrillo, do you have a question?
I'm good.
I was just going to ask a process question.
Okay.
Mary, I know we've talked about this before where something we worked on has to go through another board. Is this a situation where we go all the way through with closing the public hearing and order of conditions, or do we put in a condition for the other boards, like to pick up their approval?
Question for the other boards would be, Glenn, good.
Through the chairman, if there are major changes, and as Chris alluded to earlier, and I had talked to the owner about it, that if they were large enough, we would have to re-advertise, recertify mail the abutters, reopen the hearing for an amendment to the order.
Yeah.
If they weren't significant, if they were all street lighting or some trees up in the yard, the commission can weigh whether or not that's significant enough to require an amendment or revisions to the plan. I'm not, we will leave it at that. I will anyways.
I've got one thing, Glenn. Seeing how we've got some wetlands, obviously, that are in and around here, we've got catch basins and so forth, and possibility of some contaminants. Is there any, or could there be a condition where, say, a year or two after completion of this project, that we have, that the applicant has to do some water testing to make sure that, we don't have sort of another situation that's going on in town?
Through Chris again being the engineer, but we all have seen over the years projects that require a pre-water quality testing. Of course, it would have to be the right storm event, the right time of the year. If you're going to do it in 2 years from now, you have to have apples to apples for conditions to say, okay, that the water quality, say 100 feet downgrading of structures or some distance downgrading is the same. Chris?
Yeah, and just we need a baseline to start from. What's
Right.
the existing condition now?
Right.
And then, under similar ambient conditions, weather conditions, what is it like 2 years from now?
Right.
Yeah. I think that would be good to give us an idea of, pre-construction, what is it? And then, post-construction for, a year or two, just to make sure that there's nothing that's being carried off that we just don't really quite realize. What does the commission think about that?
Commission.
Hello?
How would you do that?
If I could, through the chairman, I believe I would discuss with Mr. Keenan the points that we would choose, and then, as Chris said, the ambient, the existing apples to apples, I hate to use common terms, but we have to have the same conditions we're testing now before construction that we would then test later. And possibly, if Chris, we'd can have a discussion over this and then bring it back to the board as to where, if there was a place to be testing. Obviously, it would be before 395 because we don't want to be dealt with that monster.
Yeah.
Maybe it's before this water gets there, then we look at it while there's a flow.
Yeah.
Certain time of the year. I don't see the clients getting ready to put this under construction at this late time of the year. I think that has to be taken. So it might be a springtime look at when general groundwater is moving.
Yeah.
At the height and then pushing through, and then we test it then, and then we would choose that same time of the year and same conditions in a 1 year or 2 years down the road, or a year down the road, and maybe another time, a second time down the road. I think I'd like to leave it with, plus you have your own consultant that might have idea, Mr. Bufaniff, but if we were required to do this, I would want to discuss it first with Mr. Keenan and possibly Mr. Faniff.
Sure, Glenn. And the only thing that I would add is I wouldn't want to do testing too far away from the site, just under the premise that, contamination may be coming from somewhere else.
Yes, Chris,
I'd like to test, right up against, basically our property line at our nearest point to make sure that if there is a change, it's definitely coming from us. The only issue that's going to occur is, we have a stormwater basin that's discharging at our property line. We're going to end up taking measures on someone else's property.
Okay.
Yes, the issue might be what comes directly out of a basin off the site. I'll listen to you, Chris, and I hear what you're saying, and it is in our property directly what we call this west of our basin.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to listen to my engineer, the engineer, and the client's engineer, and if we were to do it further down gradient. Sometimes you want the wetland in the middle, you might want, which should receive no runoff and no nutrient from us. I would think that I would rather have water collecting from the wetland systems and the basin and test it, or downgrade it at a point where there is no basin, where we don't have discharge yet from the site, and then test it later. Whether or not I had to get permission from a butter, if that was possible. If not, then it would have to be at our property line. But having water purely coming out of our basins, well, we can't get that because there's nothing coming out of there's no basins there to get the pre.
Yeah.
So I'm curious on that point.
I'm just thinking of another area. I mean, it's a bit different situation, but another lot in town, Glenn, of which that we're in the process of stormwater, and it's been on their radar for several years.
Yes.
And, if we can at least just check in every so often just to make sure that,
the stuff as in that other site isn't just dumping out, even though it was looked at 9 years ago and it's supposed to be right, and it had never been right. So yes, then if we're just looking at what's coming out of the basin as far as colloidals and other nutrients,
an idea,
I'm fine. I'd like to talk to Mr. Keenan over it, and before we decide on the location. That clearly this just came up, so all right.
So we can just put that in there as a condition, and then we can, obviously
we're willing to do the sampling. I can say that though.
I would like to have that checked. All right. So are there any other butters that are comments before we close the public hearing?
Through you, Mr. Chair, this is Michelle Smith again, just would reiterate that I'd like to see the parking area paved to prevent the migration of pollutants.
Okay.
Are we gonna keep it open to review the changes in the plans or not?
Well, I mean, the changes in the plan are fairly fairly minor. I mean, we're tucking in that upper corner, just asking for, you know,
The spill kits thing.
the spill kits, you know, 3 spill kits sporadically throughout.
Yeah.
You know, obviously some signage near the snow removal spot, snow only,
And the fence.
and the fence there.
We'll probably, if I could through the chairman, we'll probably use Jersey
Stockpile.
barrier. Jersey
Okay.
barrier, because that's solid and heavy.
Yeah, and they're
Chain
higher.
link fence, and chain link fence can be bowed over. The Jersey barrier, I'm sure the client would go with that. Chris, you or Chris have mentioned possibly Jersey barrier. At that close point on the right-hand side, left of the right-hand side.
I assume you have a DEP number?
Yes.
Hey, there's one tonight.
All right, then, I'm going to close the public hearing. And do we have a motion on this project? Commissioners?
I motion we close the project. We close the, whatever.
Public hearing.
Yeah.
Public hearing, I motion we close the public hearing.
Okay, can I get a second?
Second.
All right,
All right, Ms. Cirillo,
Yes.
Mr. Bach. Is Fred still here?
He's on mute.
Yes. Sorry.
Mr. Duteau,
Yes.
Dr. Jewell,
Yes.
Mr. Wigglesworth.
yes. All right. Do we have a motion to issue an order of conditions?
I motion we issue the order of conditions.
Okay, have a second?
I second that.
Dan has second.
All right, Ms. Cirillo,
Yes.
Mr. Bach,
Yes.
Mr. Duteau,
Yes.
Dr. Jewell,
Yes.
Mr. Wigglesworth.
Yes. All right, Chris, Chuck, Glenn, I want Michelle Smith, I want to thank you all for your time.
Chuck Egan.
And I just want to,
Thank you.
you know, obviously it's, you know, a sizable project. We want to make sure it's conditioned correctly, so.
We thank you very much for your time, Conservation Commission. Clearly, I'm sure Quinn Engineering does the same. And thank you, Mr. Egan, also, the board. Appreciate it. All right. Well,
Thank you all.
Thank
All
you
right,
all.
thank you, folks.
All right, stay safe.
Take care, guys. Bye.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so next up, 137 Core Road, was that being continued, Mary?
That's continued, yep.
All right, so can we get a motion for continuance of 137 Gore Road, Twisted Piston to November 23rd?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
There they are.
Ms. Cirillo,
Yes.
Mr. Bach,
Yes.
Mr. Duteau,
Yes.
Dr. Jewell,
Yes.
Mr. Wigglesworth.
Yes. All right, 23 Claybert Avenue, Antonia Diaz, expansion, expanded of a driveway continued from October 22nd. Do we have a representative for 23 Claybert Ave?
It does not.
Motion to continue 23 Claybert Ave to November 23rd.
I will make that motion.
I second it. But
Chairman, do we need to
Yes.
take a different approach with this?
Yeah, exactly.
Second or third time we've continued it and not had representation.
Right.
Oh, you know what? There's someone trying to get in right now.
Is it Brandon?
I don't know.
We dumped him somehow.
Can call the caller 978-877-29, et cetera, identify themselves? Oh, they just left.
Well, Brandon is Rhode Island 401, so.
Okay.
All right. Do we have, how we are hesitant to continue this? Do we, I mean, how do we, thoughts on handling it?
Right, because
I would suggest that we just continue it and not set the date and let them recontact us.
Okay.
but they're not
And just
going
let-
to
let
because
them
they
let
already did the work.
Yeah,
That's
they
the
don't
problem.
have really any incentive to get on. She was having issues with her email earlier today. We had talked to her today, and computer issues. So the idea that was that she was going to call in on her phone. And maybe the other issue is I just need to put her first on the agenda. That might be helpful. It's not a long project.
No,
Is the work stopped though? Or
yes.
what is she
Yeah,
doing?
she's all done. She just needs to, there's some conditions that we just need to put in order for her to follow, and, setting up that boundary line of you don't go beyond here. You got to do these replantings.
Yes.
Our boundary line dispute that's between her neighbor, there's nothing we can do about that. But bring it up to her if she's not aware of it.
Yeah, and she doesn't have a DEP number yet either. So,
But she can't do any more work though. She's not doing any more work. Okay, good.
No.
'Cause she just seems like she's not taking it too seriously.
Well, the work is all done, so all it is really cleaning up where the a front loader kind of pulled up some stumps a little bit and rake it all out and throw some plants in. So, let's continue this, and without a date, and when, we'll check upon, we'll get a commitment from her, and if we can't get a commitment from her, a lot of commissions just go ahead and they just make the order of conditions, and here you go. So.
Okay.
Motion to continue 23 Claybert Ave.
I motion we continue it, but like you said, do some of the things to get her on the thing.
And lead a horse to water and make him drink. Can we, do we have a second on this?
I'll second.
All right, second on that.
all right, Ms. Cirillo,
Yes.
Mr. Bach. All right, he's muted. Mr. Duteau,
Yes.
Dr. Jewell,
Yes.
Mr. Wigglesworth,
Yes.
and I guess Fred is not voting on this one.
Okay. 37 Whitefield Ave is continued to December 7th. That is Mr. and Mrs. Coon's removal of rocks, and placing of slab at the water's edge. All right, moving on. We've got some COCs here that we need to take care of. 8 Fairfield, look at dock permit.
Anderson.
All right, so is that Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
All right. We can barely hear you. How you doing?
Let me try a little closer. Is that better?
No, you're far away.
How about that? Is that better?
About the same, but let's see how we work out here. All right, so you've done your Chapter 91 filing here. And so it looks like 42 feet out. And I can't see the area as to how high.
It's 24 across and 24 back.
What?
42 here, then 24
Oh,
here.
like a U.
Yeah.
Okay. And how far is it off the neighbors?
If you look at, where did I put
There you
that?
are, Scott.
Okay, if you look on the residence, I put a line going from the dock over to the boundary line. And I
Yep.
put a line on the other side. I think it's 18 feet on one side and
26 in the other?
26 on the other.
Okay, so I'm reading it right.
Yep.
First time I've seen a hand-drawn locust. I like it.
I did my best.
That's a good job.
You should start drawing for the others in town.
I thought I was back in high school. I came to the drawing.
All right, so let's see.
All right, we appreciate it. All right, commissioners, questions on this? The step back is correct.
What's the total square feet of the dock?
448.
Is it on there?
448, okay. Michelle?
So this is a general permit or simple? Must be simple, right?
Simple, yep.
Yep.
Any questions from the commission?
I just have a question. I want to make sure I'm seeing this drawing right.
Okay.
The left-hand side of the dock, which does not connect to the shoreline,
Yes.
is the end of that dock is about 8 feet from the shoreline?
Yeah, approximately, yes.
Okay, and how far is it from the sideline? The
18 feet.
18
It's
feet?
either 18 or 16. I'm trying to read it.
It says 18.
18, yeah.
Yep. And Fairfield is not in a cove, correct?
It's a mouth of Sucker Brook.
It's what?
It is Sucker Brook Cove.
Oh, it is on the cove. So what's the approximate distance across? You have to go.
Oh, don't worry about that. That's probably 500 to 1,000 feet.
Oh, so we're good.
Yeah,
It's like a
shell,
curve.
it's pretty wide at that point.
Yeah.
All right, I gotcha. So that's not a problem. So I don't see a problem.
I don't either.
Yeah, so this is the last requirement for him to get his COC was to apply for his dock permit. So this is, if you guys approve this plans here, the next step would be to issue a certificate of compliance.
Okay. I think everything is in order here. Bless you.
This was the last piece, then I'm good.
Okay. So motion to approve Chapter 91 filing for
8 Fairfield.
8 Fairfield.
I make that motion.
Dan's made second.
I'll second.
Michelle second.
Ms. Cirillo,
Yes.
Mr. Bach,
Yes.
Mr. Duteau,
Yes.
Dr. Jewell,
Yes.
Mr. Wigglesworth.
Yes.
Now, what's my next step?
Do we have to make a motion to issue the certificate of compliance for this one?
Yes, we do. Yep.
Yeah.
I'll make that motion.
All right, Michelle's making the motion.
Second.
Dan seconds.
Ms. Cirillo,
Yes.
Mr. Bach,
Yes.
Mr. Duteau,
Yes.
Dr. Jewel,
Yes.
Mr. Wigglesworth.
Yes. So after all that, Mr. Anderson, you can send 14 karat gold and any kind of bullion you'd like to send to the commission. All right, so we appreciate your compliance here and good luck with your permit for your dock. And if there are ever any questions going forward, please reach out to us.
Okay, so now I can send my application, everything into the state?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Enjoy your evening.
Happy holidays.
You too. Thank you. Stay safe.
You too.
All right, a COC on 4 Old Douglas Road.
I think, Joey, we should move ahead to 14 Wakefield because we have Pamela on the line.
Oh, we do? Okay, I'm sorry about that. I didn't, oh, okay. I had to move my, my screen around. Pamela, how are you?
Let's see if she's here.
Yeah, she's here, but
She muted.
yeah, I don't know if her name's there.
14 Wakefield Ave. Pamela, can you hear us?
She may have thought we had a few more to go, so maybe she stepped aside. So,
Hello, good evening. Can you hear me?
There you are.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No problem.
I had my my headset from work and I had it unmuted. So, how are you?
Great, great. Thank you. How are you? Thank you.
I'm very good, thank you. Good evening.
We obviously had a complex filing, so thank you for your patience in waiting.
Oh, sure, no problem.
All right, so Mary, 14 Wakefield discussion. This is discussion of plantings in the back, which is part of the perpetual conditions from when we approved the project for construction.
that's right. Let's see if I can get this plan zoomed in. Oh, here we go. All right, so this is 14 right here. And the only thing really remaining to be done is plantings. There were some arborvitae left on the site that, you know, by the builder that mainly died. There may be a few left, but the commission had asked, actually, the arborvitae listed on the plan here is wrong. It should have been the Atlantic white cedar. I think the neighbors, we are in discussions with the neighbors as well. They may be putting like redwoods or dogwoods in.
Some native plantings,
yeah.
so I mean, they were, Pamela, I'm sure, as you know, they should have been put in before the house was sold.
Yes, so I had a conversation with Mary and she was explaining this to me. I had no idea what was going on or that this was actually going on before we purchased the house. And the attorney that we used when we were purchasing the house, he actually didn't pick up on this. And of course, you know, the constructor left some pine trees here.
Yep.
And he just said that we should plant these pine trees. But then actually Mary was here at my house a couple of weeks ago. And she, I believe, or she saw the pine trees there. Mary, correct me if I'm wrong, or you saw these pine trees before. But she did say that those trees were the wrong ones.
Yes, they are.
Yeah, so I am not really familiar as to which are the correct type of trees.
Well, the correct ones that we had asked for are Atlantic white cedar. They're a native.
Eastern.
I'm sorry, Michelle?
The conditions say Eastern white cedar.
Oh, were they Eastern?
Yep.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
That's all right. So yeah, Eastern red cedar. They look similar to the arborvitae, but they are vastly different. So, I guess the decision here is, where are we approving the use, to have the red cedar in here maybe, or are we looking?
Well, it's basically, is the homeowner willing to plant these, basically?
Yeah.
Considering that the contractor has not done it.
Well, I am in a tricky situation here. First, because I had no idea this actually was the responsibility of the contractor. Had I known, we should have clarified this before the purchase of the house, or at least come up with a deal with him.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I was kind of expecting that he was going to be in this meeting, but we just actually realized that the person that was representing the construction, it was actually the son of
Yeah.
the owner of the construction company, but he had an accident last week and he passed away.
Yes.
So, I mean,
Yeah, so
I'm
if
not
you'd like to
I'm not really sure what could be my options. Again, I'm not really familiar with this kind of trees. I'm not even sure how much are the trees. I'm not sure how many do we have to plant. As you know, we are brand new homeowners.
Absolutely.
And we just moved into this house. And with that comes a lot of expenses. So I'm not even sure how many trees we have to plant.
It looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Joey, it's not to scale. I mean, David and we had measured out. It was going to be 37 for both lots. So it is going to be a substantial amount. And it seems like probably this lot is bigger. So it's probably at least 20 trees, because they were supposed to be 6 foot off each other.
Yep.
So it could be 20 trees or something like that.
On the house, at the top of this drawing, we look at it, that has the fence along the top side there.
Yeah.
It comes back to the back corner. And we agreed that that fence could stay the way it is. Is that correct?
Yeah, so the fence that's installed at the neighbors is going to stay.
Yeah.
They are coming with a proposal for planting, they want to put a fence along the back.
Right.
And they're going to plant some trees as well.
Yeah, and the way the order of conditions was written, they would be, the way I interpreted, they would be allowed to do that in place of putting in the trees in that area, because it does provide a permanent barrier.
Right.
Which is what the trees are intended to do.
So I guess that's another option, Pamela, if you wanted to put a fence along the back, if the commission agreed to that. That is what the neighbors are doing.
A fence of trees?
No, just a regular old fence.
Even like a split rail or something, right?
Rail or my last house I had, basically it was rectangular wire in black with cedar posts. And most of the year you can't even notice it. And I suspect that would be far cheaper than doing the trees. So
the intent is to delineate the area beyond which people shouldn't throw things or so on.
Yeah.
So
and a fence would do that because it's a physical barrier.
Right, and if you chose to do a fence because it was cheaper, I think we're okay with that.
Yeah, at this point, I'm throwing it out as something to think about.
Right.
Yeah, and then come back and say, here's, I've looked at my choices and I'd like to go with this route.
And,
Okay.
and to be honest, I mean, it could be that the homeowner would like to wait until the contractor is able to be present on a call and see if he's willing to do anything, because it certainly was his kind of problem to begin with. But so I think it should also be an option for her.
Okay.
It should, but we're not, I mean, I can guarantee we're not gonna get anywhere on that one.
Yeah, I know his attitude is not a very helpful one.
Yeah, we had, you know, I mean, I'm sure you'll probably end up hearing things all over the place. We did not have a very easy time permitting this project with him. But, you know, these were concessions that were made at the time of permitting, and they're in perpetuity. So that is why, you know, it's unfortunate that your attorney didn't catch this at the time of closing, because you know, there could have been some sort of working with the contractor to complete the project. You know, I mean, I would be okay with the fence. It's a physical barrier. You know, it would be nice to see a few trees, or you know, the reason we went with the red cedar is they grow in a fashion that they grow a bit slower, and they grow in sort of you know, they're conifers, so you know, they won't get very tall, and believe it or not, the cedar actually keeps mosquitoes away from properties. That's why, for a little history lesson, way back when, you'd see a cedar tree next to someone's house. So they like to keep bugs away. So
Oh, that's good to know.
yeah, and they're not bad to look at. So if you were to do the fence, you know, perhaps we could, you know, say, you know, just a handful of some cedars can go in, just because there is a natural component also to the having the trees going back there. It's vegetation that provides ecosystem services for the environment, of which got upset during the construction phase. So.
Okay.
But at this time, I'm going to be honest with you, Pamela, you're not going to be able to put any plants in now.
Time of year.
They won't, you know, they won't survive. You know, anytime after mid-October, you're running into a real problem with plants getting established and being able to overwinter, and mainly they don't survive. So I guess if you were to go with a fence, and the fence was done this year, then we can move forward with a, you know, you're issuing your order of conditions, your certificate of compliance. But, you know, I mean, I'm obviously not in a legal position to arbitrate anything or you know, really comment on anything when it comes to, you know, cost. But I don't know if you've talked to your attorney about it, and, you know, this really was something that fell on someone else, and now you're stuck with the cost.
Well, one possibility here, Pamela, is now that you know the purpose of planting the trees, you could think about what you might like to do and suggest to us either the trees or an alternative that would be acceptable to you, and see if it's acceptable to us.
Definitely, because I seriously didn't know exactly what was the purpose, like you just explained to me, as to, you know, why was I planting so many trees, and where was I supposed to be planting them. So this makes more sense now.
Yeah, basically to define the edge of your yard, that's all.
Okay.
And your property more than likely goes further than the edge of that, but for recreational use of your yard, you can't go beyond where those trees are. And you can't dump anything back there because it's a wetland line. And that would be considered dumping in a wetland, illegally using a wetland, because part of your property is wetland. So that was to provide a physical barrier for whoever was to buy the property. And, clearly they didn't follow through on their end of the bargain. Now, unfortunately, you're sort of stuck with this situation, which is recorded with DEP and recorded with the Registry of Deeds. And it's part of the in perpetuity of the property. So, Mary, did you give her the other conditions that were in perpetuity for the property?
Yeah, I believe I emailed a whole copy of the whole order with everything in it.
Yeah.
Yes, she did.
You're not supposed to construct a play box area. You can't, no swing sets, I believe. If you wanted to put a small shed, you could probably put it under your deck. That would be the optimal place to put it because it would be on gravel. There's several conditions that were in perpetuity for this project. So if you wanted to take a look online at some native plantings and see how, see different plantings that would be nice. There's flowering cherry, there's eastern red bud, there's obviously the eastern red cedar, which we highly recommend because that's what we decided on as a board. Really at this point, we just would like the project to be completed in its, the way it should, and, close out these properties. And it's unfortunate that both you and the Carreras next door didn't realize some certain things, so. If you want to come back to us and weigh the options of a fence and some plants, a mix of both, one or the other, I'm okay with that. What about the rest of the board? Sounded like Fred was on board with that.
I'm on board with it.
Robin is.
I'm good considering the situation. I think it's fair to let her consider her options here.
You know what? I have another suggestion that I just thought of, Joey.
Yes.
We have those new signs now. Maybe the most inexpensive option would actually be to get some little stakes and, put a border of those signs. It wouldn't be as pretty as, say, a fence or trees, but it would be affordable, more affordable probably.
Well,
I don't think it would be a permanent barrier, though.
it's not a permanent barrier, as we mentioned, Mary, one, and number two, we just talked to the Carreras about their situation, and for us to switch this up for the neighbor, that would not be highly looked upon on our end.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah. That makes sense.
So, yeah, I would, I think, I don't know, I mean, I would probably, Pamela, in my, and I always I'm a straight shooter with applicants and tell people, I try to, get people down the right road. I would weigh the options of which we just gave you, a fence.
Okay.
Or the trees, or a mix of both. Maybe you want a couple of nice flowering trees in the backyard. But, in order to get the certificate of compliance for your property, you need to finish it. And, if you were to turn around and sell the property, you'd end up having to do it at some point anyway, because it's an in perpetuity condition.
Okay. So I can definitely do a little bit of research on this, and then once I have a couple of ideas and proposals, who am I sending this to? Mary?
You can talk to Mary, and then if you want a couple commissioners to come out in the spring, it's probably going to be spring now. Take a look at your property and bounce some ideas. It's a free service that you're appointed in your town for you. So, and any one of these guys will tell you, I love to educate everyone and show them the world. So, geek like that. So,
Yeah, he'll go down to the atomic level.
We're
All right, stop talking.
We're here. Yeah, we're here for you. Obviously no hard feelings, but honestly, at this point, I would just count the contractor out, especially at this point while he's grieving for a child.
Yeah, we kind of thought it was not a good idea right now at this moment.
Yeah.
On that note, then I'll make a motion to continue this until Pamela can come back with what she thinks her recommendations for us.
Sounds good.
Okay, perfect. So
Do we have a second?
I second.
Robin seconds.
Sorry.
Yes.
Ms. Sherrillo.
Yes.
Mr. Bach.
Yes.
Mr. Duteau.
Yes.
Dr. Jewell.
Yes.
Ms. Wigglesworth.
Yes. All right. Pamela, we'll look forward to hearing from you again. And if we don't hear from you before the holidays, have a great holiday and stay safe.
thank you so much. You as well.
All right. Thank you.
Have a good night.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
All right. COC for LK. Is it LKQ?
Yeah.
An old COC.
Yeah. So the original stormwater basin that was built on that site, and all the original work, they never got a COC for that. And so one of DEP's comments was they should get a COC for that old work. So it was built. We know it was built, and it's not. We can't really. I didn't go out and inspect it. Obviously, I think we just have to issue it, knowing that our new order of conditions is going to take care of any problems that were part of that old project.
Okay, so what we need, are you saying what we need to do is just close this out to get rid of it, and we'll be working on the new one after that?
Yeah.
Okay.
So motion to issue a COC on 4 Old Douglas Road.
I'll make the motion that we issue the certificate of compliance, the old one, for 4 Old Douglas Road.
So that was Dan and Michelle.
I'll second it.
We'll expedite that one.
All right, Ms. Sherrillo.
Yes.
Mr. Bach.
Yes.
Mr. Duteau.
Yes.
Dr. Jewell.
Yes.
Mr. Wigglesworth.
Yes.
Mary almost never asks us to say yes in a pattern. Usually she mixes it up, so tonight is kind of amusing.
I think she's learning like the certain way, because you're actually, the way you've been doing it, Mary, is the way that the select board and the other boards do it. It's proper to be Miss Sherrillo.
I just was surprised by it.
Or Commissioner Sherrillo, Commissioner Jewell, you.
Yeah,
when I go visit her, I'll ask for Commissioner Overholt, and they won't even know who I'm talking about, right, Mary?
Is Agent Overholt in
Mary?
the house?
Yes, right, exactly.
Yeah, I'm looking for Agent Overholt. COC for 35 Bates Grove Road.
All right, so this one, let me just share my screen here.
35.
This is really old. So this is from 2005.
Jeez, okay.
I know. So none of us were around at that time. We don't even have Joe, who would have been, but so what they did is they built a garage and they did some work on the house and a little bit of work on the driveway. You can see it's a very simple plan. And I was out there today. And what did I do with that? Hopefully I put it here. Oh no.
And they're selling their house, so now they need it, right?
Yes. Did anyone look at the review I sent out? I did send a review. I hope I did.
I don't remember this one.
Yeah, I just sent it out this afternoon. And let me just check my email, make sure. Unfortunately, I don't have my, maybe I can try to log in. I haven't logged in on this computer yet, so I'm not sure I can pull it up. Let me see. Oh, maybe I never sent it. That's too bad.
Is this near Spitzeris's new home? Or is this down the other end?
This is down the other end.
Okay.
All right. Anyway, I had some lovely pictures. It looked fine. There is one little problem, which there's about a 5 foot by 5 foot dirt area. Go back to the plan, which is right about here. Okay, so there's a kind of a flat area to here, and then it slopes down to a retaining wall to the lake. And so I'm not sure, probably this wasn't even as a result of this project, because the erosion controls were supposed to go here. So this disturbance is from something else. It looks like they tried to loam and seed it to sell the house. It's just not, you know, it hasn't taken yet. Or the seed is all washed away, but it looks like there's fresh loam there to try to fix it. So I don't think it's a huge deal, and probably not originally part of this order of conditions, but maybe we just send a note, you know, that should be taken care of at some point.
I mean, it's probably going to end up knocked. It's going to end up being raised.
Oh, yeah, the house potentially.
We'll catch it, you know, when it goes to, you know, for redevelopment.
Yeah, it is a small house, so yeah, it may go.
Well, if it's 15 years old and there's no big issues, so I'll make the motion to issue the COC for this house at 35 Bates Grove Road.
Second?
I second the motion.
All right. Ms. Cirillo.
Yes.
Mr. Bach.
Yes.
Mr. Duto.
Yes.
Dr. Jewell.
Yes.
Mr. Wigglesworth.
Yes. All right, last couple of items. Who's still outstanding for conflict of interest in open meeting law?
You?
No?
Yeah, he's all set. Just Hayden, actually, I think. So he has one little piece.
I think Robin still needs a certificate.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Gee, I gave you such nice flowers too.
I know, I'm sorry.
No, definitely get, okay, things are better right now.
All right, can we get this up soon? Because
yeah, okay.
Email has now gone to Doug, and I don't, you know, I don't want to have to come over to your house and sit there and do the training with you. And
We have hot dogs and beer again, Heineken, just like you like, Joe. This time it'll be steak on the grill.
Yeah,
if you get through one of those and you go, well, that's an hour and a half of my life I'll never get back.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
I've done I'll promise you I'll do it before the next meeting. How do you like that?
It's very important, and Mary has to answer to Ann. Ann is in charge of that, and Doug knows, so.
How
Okay,
about
now I
if
know.
we get it done before the weekend?
Before the weekend, jeez.
Yeah, you get a week.
All right, well, I have to do it. I listen to everybody else, but I do what Michelle tells me to do because she's scary. She scares me.
Nice.
All right, do we want, Mary, can we just table the revisit order of conditions, or do we want to take a quick temperature on?
I think we could table that. And the other thing on here is Loveland Road, which,
We're gonna table it.
yeah, I think that's fine.
Policy items, tree clearing limbs.
We can table that too.
Yeah.
That's kind of goes with the order of conditions
Yeah,
conversation.
and
Yeah, the parking lot took a lot of time.
it did.
We need to do this stuff on a less busy night.
Yeah, Mary, had said earlier some of the thoughts you gave to consolidate things? Any thoughts on that right now while we're talking about projects that take a long time?
I'm not sure what you mean, Robin.
Well, just some of the meetings do go on.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
I mean, I'm not, now I understand the difference. This is not a 2-hour meeting type thing. At the same time, people do wait a long time, and then if they miss it, they're gone. Is there any way we could, again, is that parking lot thing over now after 6 months?
Yeah, we just issued an order of conditions.
I know, okay, I know that, but for some reason it would rear its ugly head every month.
The projects of that scale, Robin, really require.
I'm not saying to abbreviate anything. I'm just saying other smaller projects. Could they go first? Yeah, I mean, they do to an extent.
Well,
But this was,
one thing that we could do is we know these things, we know which ones are going to be real stinkers.
right.
We should probably schedule one meeting for nothing but that, so that nobody else is waiting and we can pay full attention to it for 2 hours at a time.
I think that's a great thought. It's kind of like Joey and Mary, whoever did the consolidating of the site visits. So it's not 5 or 6 on one Saturday. You can give all your attention to 2 or 3 in the broke up group. But if we could, just an idea, because
the thing is,
there are some that really do take a long. There's a lot on them, and I'm not. And the point is, I don't want to say, like Fred had mentioned, there are sometimes we have to discuss things. So I'm not saying abbreviate or don't do a good job, don't do it thoroughly. But is there a way we could kind of consolidate a little, so that there's not so many things on one night when you have a 2-hour thing going on.
Right.
Often run into the 21-day period from the moment they have done their filing.
Yeah, okay. No, I know.
Act on that. So that is, and I'll be honest with you, we exhausted many continuances on that parking lot, and Glenn was on the flip side. Glenn was very willing to accept the continuances because he knew that it was a thorny, it needed to be calibrated correctly. So
I thought he's been fine in the last few
what
months.
you're talking about, it would be nice to do like discussion items and just RDAs one night, but
yeah, all right. Like I said, in the beginning, it's just, now I know that it's a long meeting. That's it. I mean, you can't do anything about it if you're on the conservation.
I think it should get better. In the winter, they're usually shorter. And I believe next meeting is much better. So
some commissions, I will remind people, some commissions meet until 11, 12 o'clock at night.
Yeah, well, I know. And again, that Michelle Smith, boy, she had some great questions. It wasn't like she knows what. Yeah, really, it wasn't like the sisters who I thought I was in a philosophy class. What if this happens? I mean, sometimes bad stuff happens. So, I mean, there were some meetings that really should have been, whatever.
They're over with. So the agent's report.
Yeah, maybe we want to table it. This is just the community road where there was a complaint. And supposedly they're filing really soon. So
Terrific.
this was kind of the work. Yeah, there's nothing really else in here except for the Sutton Road.
Priority habitat, Mary?
What's that?
This is 90.
90 Sutton Road. Yeah, I guess I didn't label it.
Is he in priority habitat?
This is the road here, so this is probably just a culvert. I'm not sure that it's actually a resource area. There is definitely resource area 50 feet this way, though.
Yeah, this is the one I mentioned Saturday, Joey, right next to that house that Conrad Allen sold.
Yeah.
I never got a chance to drive by. I didn't go to Market Basket. Okay. All right, so he's gonna file?
Yeah, he's gonna stop. He wasn't very happy, but I did ask him to stop. And when I drove past on my way home, he had stopped, so that was good. I drive by this house every day on the way to work, so that's unfortunate for them, I guess. But
okay. So good. Those two will file.
and although the community, they should be filing any day now. I gave them 2 weeks. So
okay.
It's been almost 2 weeks.
Any particulars on orders of conditions for any of the projects tonight? Please get them to Mary. Mary, I would maybe, like we have with some of the bigger projects in the past, reach out to Brandon. I wrote several things down. Obviously Michelle's probably going to get some good ones over to you.
Yeah, definitely. Certainly this will get sent out to everybody, and I'll go carefully cull the notes for people's conditions that they mentioned. Yes.
Can I ask a question about that?
Yes.
I tried to ask this, but it didn't come out right. Do we have a condition, or should we be having conditions related to the other boards?
Right, and Anne keeps telling me that we can't do that. So, but we do have a condition which says all other state and local permits must be obtained before work is started. So that's a general condition we have. But I don't think we can say specifically they have to go to the planning board or whatever. I don't know.
No, I don't mean that. I think Michelle Smith said in one of her documents, mentioned making sure that we pick up any changes or tweaks that other departments make. And that's really what I'm asking.
Yeah.
This is like a DEP situation. Should we be leaving the public hearing open until we get that feedback, or is it a condition?
No, that's a really good idea. And certainly they don't even always get us the most up-to-date plans. So that can be a problem. So that should be a condition on, you're right. That's a good condition.
And I know Glenn was offended because, I was implying they weren't going to tell us what happened, but it really has nothing to do with that project. It's more broad.
No, it's it is in general, and I do know some commissions that will hold it open until they've got the conditions ready to go. But to see if, planning may actually say, well, we would like, 3 islands put in here, decrease the car size and get some trees in here. Because
I give you the solar farm. Wasn't there one of the solar farms that planning or something changed a whole bunch of things and we never really got the information?
I know exactly what you're talking about. There was a couple that we were wondering if planning overrode us on a few things.
Yeah.
In fact, that's sitting on my desk because those guys are almost done, the Baton Street Solar, and we have to figure out whether that swale, the edges of the swale are going to be mowed or let grow to trees. We have to argue that out with the planning board because there's 2 conflicting pieces of information there.
Yeah, that should not have happened.
Yeah.
So I just feel like we either got to leave the public hearings open to grab that stuff, or we have to have some tight conditions to grab that, so we're not stuck in that situation. And I think the auto auction's a great place to start with that.
Yeah, I agree.
And that can go into the conditions discussion.
Well, the other possibility is that when you hit something like that, we don't even take it up until it's gone through planning.
Right.
But we can't. We're not allowed to do that. We get 21 days from when they file, so we have to do something. But we can hold the hearing open or write a condition and make them come back. We can't ignore them till planning's done.
And sometimes planning does exactly what we do. They cull through it. And I mean, look at, planning was dragging out the solar as much as we were.
Yeah.
You know, with questions and scenarios and, you know, planning it out really is what you're doing. So, but I mean, I think it, you know, some sort of a, you know, some sort of a condition that does based, you know, so these conditions stand, but, you know, based on, you know, other boards, conditions could apply or so, you know, something like that. We got to find the right language for it.
Well, you know, in Congress, if the House and the Senate have different versions of a bill, there's a process called reconciliation.
Yeah.
Which might be appropriate. That concept may be appropriate where the two boards sit down and hash it out to figure out which way they're going. Because you can only have one set of conditions.
Right. The key problem here is what triggers that, right? Right now, we're kind of dependent on the applicant to come back to us and say, hey, something changed.
Yeah. You know, the planning wants this moved or wants that moved, or, and then suddenly it's, you know, it's things that are in the buffer zone which should come back to us.
Well, when the stuff is going to planning, what about having a copy of the order of conditions sent to the planning board? It's like, here's what we're expecting.
Yeah.
So clearly we'll have to work it out.
Yeah. There's gonna, you know, I mean, a small little, you know, another step, Mary.
That's one small step for man.
That is.
I knew someone was going to.
Project kind.
One giant pain in the neck for Mary.
No, Agent Overholt. All right.
Special Agent Overholt.
Right, especially that's that's what.
I don't think I've been called Miss Shirillo that much in my life.
I gotta tell you, I wanted to laugh every time. All right, Fred, I need you to do your thing.
Fred, are you sleeping? Fred?
I didn't hear a word he said. He suddenly cut out.
Do your thing.
Fred, I need you to do your thing. We're approaching 9:30.
Oh, you'd like a motion to adjourn.
Absolutely.
Okay, yeah, cool.
And who's the second?
I second it.
All right, Mary.
Dr. Drew.
We're all in favor.
Okay, excellent.
Happy Thanksgiving. And we're going to see each other before Thanksgiving?
Yeah, we get the Monday before. That's
the Monday before. Okay.
If anyone is going away, please, or planning on able to make it, let us know. I don't know if, you know, Hayden's family's in Connecticut. I don't know if he's going down there. Fred, I don't know if you're doing something.
Nah, all our families have abandoned us for this year.
It's gonna, I hope it's still a nice year for everyone. I really do.
My
But
nephew's on travel lockdown.
yeah, right now, stay home, stay safe, wear a mask. If you got gloves, wear them.
It's 70 degrees in November. You can't really ask for more.
I don't know. I'm freezing right now on my porch, so I want Go.
Stay safe, everybody.
All right, have a good night.
You too.
Good night.
All right, bye.